All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You wanna know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Brian, and I'm joined on the Kaiserian front by Alice.
Build that coastal wall! Build that coastal wall!
God. And Nico.
Beetle tank logically leads to train centipede, but where is it? Where is it?
Our episode today is on an art book that tosses all the bullshit aside and gets straight to the hard questions about this genre. The most important of which is, what if literally any noun had big fuck-off legs and a big fuck-off cannon? It's TANKHEAD. Let's launch into it.
Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
So this is kind of a different thing that we're doing today. I don't think we've done anything quite like this. I think the closest thing, and it's still really far off, is Mazinger, because it's a book that had pictures.
I was thinking Jivo when we went through one by one on the mechs on there.
Structurally, I do think it's going to be very similar to that, yeah, where we're just like, hey, look at this one. Hey, look at this one. So this is both called a mechanical encyclopedia art book and a narrative art book. It is essentially a really thick coffee table book full of extremely cool mech drawings and the loose contexts in which they existed. And that is basically it. But like, sometimes you'll get jump scared by like a 2-page spread of like the coolest, most fucked up fascist city you've ever seen. And then like 5
Jesus
paragraphs
Christ.
on like, what the hell is these people's problem? So this was produced in 2024. And actually it came out like 2 months ago, I think. I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered this back in November, knowing I wanted to do an episode about it. And so I've basically just been kind of, it was originally slated to come out in the middle of the Metal Year, and we just kept pushing it back and replacing it with Metal Gear episodes until it's finally happening. This is not really part of a franchise or anything. It is published by Udon Entertainment, who is like, as we actually learned like 10 minutes ago, apparently just like the website at which you buy art books. So
I need you to read this copy exactly. Is this part of a franchise? If so, where in the franchise?
what did I write here? No, this is a unique and special woman that we must treasure. That's what I wrote.
That is correct. We must treasure this special little woman.
But no, so most of the drawing and line art was done by Emerson Tung. The writing was done by Tim Popelier. This is about 231 pages, so like pretty hefty.
Oh, that's a thick boy.
Yeah.
Brian's holding it up for the camera for those at home.
I was holding it up for the camera. There's going to be a lot of, sneak preview. There's going to be a lot of me holding things up to the camera in this, but we'll see. So this is 231 pages. The way we ended up doing this was I basically editorialized, and I just kind of went through and took photos of the like important storyline copy and the mechs that I thought we were gonna like generate the most discussion. But like, I can't stress enough how many things are in here that we're not gonna get to because it would take 7 hours. I highly recommend that you check out the TANKHEAD official Twitter, which is just at @TANKHEAD_Mecha. They actually posted I would say a majority of the images that are in here have been tweeted by that account at this point. So definitely take a look at those. Definitely buy the book when it's available. It is currently sold out because I guess it's a hit, or they underproduced. We'll never know. But yeah, it's $59.99, which is not, I would say, the most accessible piece of media that we've covered on the show. But if you can swing it, I highly recommend it. And then again, if not, you can definitely just look at the Twitter and still have an enlightening experience. So without further ado, actually, did you guys know anything about this at all before I was like,
Absolutely
hey, this
not.
exists?
Not until you put it on and then following the saga of shipping delays with you. I intentionally did not look further into this besides the stuff that you shared directly with us because I wanted to fully consume it when we got a copy. So I knew nothing about this except for it reminded me of there's a small, well, it reminded me of a few things. It reminded me of there's a small Yuri manga called Tandem, which is about a girls' school in which two girls pilot a walking tank that much looks like these, and then they kiss. And then it also very much reminded me of Iron Harvest, which is a game I dearly love, and we have to cover on this podcast because it is alternate history mecha done so well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've actually heard that. Yeah, I mean, in that same vein, shoutouts to Emerson Tung. I believe this happened recently. I don't have a firm timeline on it, but at least at this point, Emerson is the art director at id Software, who are actually the people that made Doom and Wolfenstein, which I feel like that's such... This is Doom. Like, when you get to, like, the last quarter of this book, suddenly you're in Doom.
And in the first parts of it, you're definitely feeling some Wolfenstein influence.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, totally.
I hadn't heard anything about this, but Emerson Tung actually does occasionally post on Tumblr, my only form of social media.
So you're aware of them.
Yeah, so I had actually heard of Emerson Tung before, and I'd heard a little bit about the project. So when Brian put it on the schedule, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a great excuse to actually, like, take a look at this stuff and take a look at, I don't know. I feel like we cover a lot of like sci-fi inflected mecha. It's interesting to see a more grounded, like historical and military inflected thing. So,
What about you, Brian? What did you know about this?
This was a gift of the rare internet algorithm W of like starting a Twitter and like trying to curate it toward a bunch of mecha bullshit. I like literally was just scrolling Twitter one day and saw. It might have been this one that's on the cover, but it was one of the kind of standard bipedal tank heads, and I was like, that thing. Actually, my first thought was that thing looks like Alice would absolutely jizz herself looking at it, and so like I went to like look at it more, and then I found the one one of the many actually that is a battleship that has legs, and I was like, oh, we're back, and so I knew I needed to like know more.
Back.
Yeah. So, those things are so cool. Anyway, we'll get into it. But...
Okay, now Nico, now give your feet in line.
no, I was just gonna say, so what the fuck is the world state that created these things?
Oh, it's I bet you've never heard of this before. What if X war never ended?
I'm gasping so hard.
I'm just gonna give my synopsis because that basically covers this situation. So TANKHEAD centers on the titular devices used in a world extremely similar to ours called, I think you're supposed to pronounce it EARD because it's like Earth but with a D, but it's spelled EARDE, so you could also say EARD if you were like, I don't know. I'm trying to keep in mind that this is a very European written book, so a lot of the nouns I'm going to like assume coming from a European like angle.
Yeah, we're gonna redub all of the nouns with the Kim Kitsuragi voice synthesizer from Disco Elysium. So we get a weird fucked up French accent on everything. I think that's the only way to go.
I am going to struggle with Kaiserian tankhead names. I'm just gonna say it right now. I'm gonna struggle on air and it's gonna be really vulnerable.
No, this is where we have to delegate. Alice, you have to pronounce everything that looks German.
Jawohl. Yeah. I'm very excited to talk about the TANKHEAD.
Oh my god, I apologize in advance to our Swiss, German, Austrian...
What are they going to do? Invade New Britannia again? Let us see them try. Wait,
I apologize to Europe, just in general. Like,
Fake alternate history Europe. I am doing a Kazankian
I'm full of so much confidence.
Kaziria.
Let's go.
Excellent. Let's
go.
Let's go.
Okay, so tankheads are mostly bipedal mechs with actual like tank turrets for heads most of the time that serve as the main combatant engine in the 50-year period the book presumes to study called the Never War. Enabled by mysterious ancient technology unearthed in a clandestine heritage robbery operation by Fantasy Germany, the tankheads shaped the war and the world to come. We get the timeline of this conflict piecemeal through looking at the timeline of mechanical sensibilities developed by each of the three main powers in the world at the time of the war. Those are as follows. The Britannica Alliance, which is basically just the allied powers of World War II. New Kaiseria, which is the aforementioned Fantasy Germany, but also kind of if they'd like won against the Soviet Union back in like the BC times. And then the Yamaichi Dominion, which is like fantasy Japanese expansionist empire. So again, like Alice was saying earlier, very alt history. These are very purposefully extremely close to sensibilities that we can kind of touch and feel in our real world lives. So the war itself comes to an end with a staggering Operation Grandmaster Gambit against the Kaiserian superweapon Project Godhead. Also, every single page is utterly drenched in beautiful, colorful mech art done by Emerson Tung, and that's really the core of what we're here to talk about today, because I was able to sit down with Tankhead wordsmith Tim Popelier and talk about his experience doing such a cool thing. That comes later. For now, we will take a break and then just basically go through each world power and say, look at this one.
Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
So this is the first time we've done anything like this, and so just to give kind of a general idea of what the thing is that we're going to keep referencing, like I mentioned earlier, it is basically just a huge list of cool mechs and vehicles. So like I mentioned in the summary that each alliance actually goes through a like, this was the first thing you saw on the battlefield at the beginning of the war, and then you hit the point where tankheads start getting produced, and then it goes from there. But like this book is literally just 3 parts, and each part is what the different mechs of each alliance are. And so like when you get something like an art book for, I don't know, Jujutsu Kaisen, or like we were looking at earlier, Elden Ring, like a lot of the times art books are referencing like original line art or draft art for something that you've already seen or played or experienced.
Yeah, a lot of concept art goes into this.
A lot of concept art, yeah. Yeah.
I think concept artists, like, they do so much work and it gets posted online and it gets in their portfolios, but like if you really want to see it and own it and see the genesis of ideas, like art books are where you want to go. Mm-hmm. One of the famous ones that is my white whale that I really badly want is the art and making of Control, the video game. Like, that is such a gorgeous book, and you just can't get it anywhere. Yeah, I love art books. They used to be a fascination of mine when I was younger, because I was really into anime and manga, and so I would collect art books for different series.
So good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're often very eye-opening for the process of, again, like we mentioned, like something you've kind of already drawn attention to. This one's a little bit unique in that, like, to the detriment of humanity, there's not like a Tankhead animated franchise or anything, although reading this made me really, really want one. So that's kind of what it is. And to kind of supplement that, they brought Tim in to basically, my understanding is just like give it context and give it life. And I think he did a really good job. I mean, a lot of the stuff that's in here in terms of like the material conditions under which the different tankheads were created is like really like realistic and believable and like tangible in a lot of ways. There's an interesting like kind of timeline you can piece together. Of course, at the end of the book, there is also just a straight up timeline. I didn't share that just because we can look at it. But yeah, that's
I think it's exploring a fertile idea space because if you look at the actual history of the design of weapons of war, there are so many things that, one, never got made. A lot of people joke or talk about Nazi super weapons in fiction, and, like, the reality is that, like, Nazi Germany really just came up with so many different designs for shit that they just never could have afforded to make or, like, sustain or do anything with. And so, like, going into those idea spaces, imagining, like, where weapons of war could have gone, and then, of course, that supporting text by the writer is so great because it really does echo, like, if you read a book about the development of a carbine, or if you read the book, like me, about the development of volatile liquid rocket fuels, there are so many, like, goofs, and there's so many, like, I mean, right off the bat with the escargot transport, it's like, they realized that putting a bunch of warheads in an open trailer was a bad idea. It just sounds like every, like, declassified military document that you find. It's really great.
Yeah. And that is basically, and like it's like another thing too, and I didn't share all of these. I believe I gave you guys a couple of them, but like every so often there's just like a full page spread of like, hey, this alliance did this fucked up technological marvel, and like here's like kind of what happened with it, like the wall that Alex mentioned.
I'm obsessed with the wall, by the way. But like the Tank Kong 2's weapon system, like that breakthrough, I think it's really cool. It gives a good depth to it of just like, instead of wow, cool robot, it's wow, cool robot, but how did they get to this design idea?
But how did war is bad fuel wow, cool robot?
Yeah.
What if we called it an escargot snail?
There are so many designs in this book. I feel like there's an even split in designs in this book between, like, common machinery of war, like battleships and tanks, and then bugs and elephants and shit, and it's just, it rules.
I'm obsessed with how each faction kind of has their own animal or insect, like, thing to lean on. And then, okay, I want to get up on this at top. They gave the battleship legs and a giant trident, and I'm obsessed with some of these designs, because, like, yeah, it's military cool, but also, like, what if we gave a battleship legs?
What if you were looking at a battleship out in the harbor and you're like, oh, this is bad, and then it stood up?
That shit
you're like,
stood up.
What if you looked out at a battleship and you were like, thank God my diverse topographical nation has such wide, thin shoals, they'll never be able to get within range of their cannons, and then it starts walking on the shoals. Anyway, we should just jump into it. It sounds like we all agree that we should talk about the escargot transport.
I'm sorry.
It's
beautiful.
Hugo, tell me about the snail.
Oh, our beautiful snail. So I love that it opens there alongside a lot of the mechs. There are also support vehicles. We're not going to really talk about those as much, but we open with the escargot because it kind of sets the tone for what we're looking at, which is just like, this is a cool silhouette. What if it was a tank? What if it was a mech? And so for this one, it is supposed to be a designed by committee motorbike for getting ammunition out onto the field quickly.
It's a Vespa. So we need to start with that. This is a Vespa originally.
It started as a Vespa with a bike trailer, and it evolved in a particular way.
It evolved into like an enclosed armored Vespa with a big snail shell protective cavity for the load that it carries.
So I'm gonna, just to be completely honest, I'm gonna be a little Milsim nerd about a lot of things.
Oh damn!
in
the Milsim art book.
In the Milsim art book. So this evokes very specifically the Vespa 150 Tap, which what they did is they took a Vespa and they shoved an anti-tank gun in it so they could drive around and shoot an anti-tank gun. And this really evokes that of just like, I mean, this is a difference in that they threw armor on top of it, but it's literally like, you start with the Vespa, but obviously that's not great for war. What do you do? And I just love that we immediately start with the heads, right? The tank head. Most of them are just little machine gun heads, but this guy's got a little head on it.
It's really great. And yeah, the text discusses how the design went from a 3-wheeled Vespa with a bike trailer full of full of artillery shells, and then evolved into this ridiculous snail-shaped thing that can support 2 people in it, that has 2 different gunnery positions, and that was designed specifically so that if it rolled over, because it is an unwieldy, ridiculous thing, it could be easily rolled back up because it's round. And it is called the ES Cargo Transport. And I just... That tells you, that sets the tone right there. You're ready to go.
Tone.
We know what we're getting into immediately.
Hey, what did this in the art, the like spread art on the other page? What did this guy name his ES Cargo Transport?
He named it Gary.
And now poetry by Gary.
Meow, meow, meow. He has such a way with words.
Something about the art, though, is it's lived-in art. So these aren't like off the production line mechs. Like this one, he wrote his name on it. It has military markings.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's the attention to detail.
For some of the devices, like they will draw and do a whole other page just to show you, hey, this is one that this guy really wanted to customize, and also he was in battle a lot, so it's fucked up. Like there's a lot of that. It's really, really good. But yeah, that is I actually forgot to say this. That is a Britannica tank head. So it goes Britannica, Yamaichi, Kaiserian in the book, and that's kind of the order that I feel like we should just go in, especially because Kaiseria has like the kind of most of the narrative like climax stuff in it. Which you're thinking, oh, this is basically just a catalog. Why does it have a narrative climax? It actually has a narrative climax.
There is a through line to this story that it builds.
So what's another one that you guys liked out of the Britannicas that I shared? The next one that I have is the M4 Sherman, but if there's one,
I think it's unique that the full Britannica ones, not just the Grand Brittany, is the UK equivalent. They're birds. That's their shtick. I think the Ugly Duckling is worth mentioning. I think we should give it some credence. So obviously they were slower to get to the development than the others, and it kind of explains it. It's a little ugly duck. It looks like a fucking duck.
There's a chicken troop transport later. That's got me fucked up.
It's got me so fucked up. But
I
it's
didn't
really
actually
cool
put it together, but you're so right. These are a lot of these are birds. The birds are back.
The
birds fuck.
But I like their take on the design, which is much more bolted together. Kind of, you can tell they're obviously trying it. Something that they do in this book, kind of early on, is they show the. This is the never-ending war. It's World War I and World War II. So some of the earlier designs from Grand Brittany are like your Mark I, like your big just chunk. And so to see the development, there's a couple of Vickers in here, which Vickers was much more portable weapons platforms that Britain was making because they didn't have access to as much steel and shit. But yeah, the Ugly Duckling, I just love his stupid little... It reminds me of Cherno Alpha with his stack in the middle.
Yeah. This is extremely my shit, like this whole book, because I really do like just like the heavy looking, bolted together, scrappy looking. I like those kind of mechs. So much of what this book is doing.
This one, to be clear, it's like a weird. It's like tall in the midsection, but all of its limbs are like squat and at the bottom, so it kind of looks again like a little weird baby bird. And then it has 2 like eyeball cannons. This thing is so dumb. I love it so much.
The M4 Sherman.
The M4 Sherman.
Hey guys, the M4 Sherman.
This is our first like mech. Like this is like when you say mech to someone who's like not in the genre space, like this is the general silhouette that they probably think of, right? Yeah. This is man standing emoji.
Just real quick, I do like that a lot of these have really wide, this is going to sound so weird, really wide hips.
Birthing hips.
Childbearing hips.
there's plenty of clearance because, like, one of the things that just happens to human beings is, like, when we walk, our legs are close together. It's very easy to, like, tangle your legs up or trip. But, like, if you have, like, gun emplacement space between your two delicate legs that need to hold you upright, I think it makes sense that it would be harder for you to get tangled together and it would really require outside action to fuck you up.
Totally.
And I really like that element of practicality in so many of these designs.
That's a good call out, yeah, because like
That
when
is,
a
yeah.
human walks, their legs can have friction against each other, things you don't want in a giant walking tank.
You need more tolerances in the giant walking tank.
So one of the lines early on in because all of these usually have little writings with it, and one of the earliest ones is it's alluding to one of the German priests, and he says, you know, God's forged in the shape of man, which is like such a fucking line to make about mechs, and kind of alludes to what's going on. But I really love the, like, when tanks first came to the battlefield, it was kind of a big deal, guys. And so this really evokes it. But the M4 Sherman, so you take an M4 Sherman, just take off the treads, put legs on the bottom, and then these two cool-ass arms on the side. But you keep just the entire turret and the middle section. And it's so extra. I love this. My favorite part about this, though, is that they include the M4 variants. So I think we should also probably say it. This name is just the name of the tank that exists in our universe, the M4 Sherman. A couple of them have new names, but this one is straight up. But they show you some of the variants. So they the next few pages show multiple variants, including one that's like a close combat variant where he has like sandbags on him. Because in World War II, German tanks had more punch than our armor. And so there was a lot of on the field just strap shit to it. But also, he's got a fucking pistol. We have established mech-sized weapons in hands.
Yep.
Fucking peak, right?
One of the
I
things
love a mech-sized Glock.
One of the things that's cool too, the Ugly Duckling also has like a little toolbox that it's carrying around.
Mech-sized toolbox.
Mech-sized toolbox.
But yeah, the Sherman, the Sherman I actually put in here because of the variants, because I really like when somebody takes like a standing man emoji like Alice mech and like makes it a fucked up color. So like, I don't know if I shared the next page with you guys, the one that has like all the different paints on it. So like one guy gave his M4 the shark teeth that you see on like a bunch of the like fighter jets. Another one did like desert camo. One of them is wearing a ghillie suit.
Yeah, I really liked that one. That was the one I was going to call out. I really love that. I love a mech with a cloak. It just looks good.
I think it's great because like if you know military history, you know the different variants of the Sherman, and the Firefly being in a fucking cloak is just like all gilded up vibes, and the crocodile using tiger stripe. I don't know. It's just it's very good. It plays to parts of my heart I love.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be kind of one of those.
And then the small details. So there are some things that are consistent. So you think of design, right? So on a lot of these, they have footholds and bracers for climbing just built into the design. The M4 Sherman, for example, on the left kneecap has a pull hook because they would often have to pull each other out of ruts because they were usually in units. And I think that's a small little like thing. And then some of the earlier varieties don't have covers over the gears. They're just fully exposed to the outside. And so some don't. Some have little packs for additional gear. And then lastly, the one in the ghillie suit has a giant Bowie knife because we know what we're doing.
Hell yeah.
That's your sneaking mission. TANKHEAD.
TANKHEAD. But I think this is a standout design for me because it really evokes what this is trying to do.
Our Metal Gear game that's better than Metal Gear should be an espionage game, but you're in a mech espionaging around other mechs.
I would love that.
Anyway, do you guys want to get really fucked up and perverted and talk about the Tank Kong 1 and 2?
Yes, it's time for communism. And you know what communism produces? Gorillas.
Yeah, what's the theme of the ex-Soviet Union?
A monkey.
Nico? Monkey.
Monkey. No, I like the justification for this, which is that, like, they didn't have the sophisticated gyroscopes to do proper bipedal, and so they made heavy front arms that could do stability as it covered terrain. I think that's great. I like the redesigned Soviet Union logo for the fictional nation of West Virginia. That is a wrench and a pickaxe. I really like that.
Instead of the hammer and sickle, it's really good. Another thing that the art book came with was stickers of all the countries, and I definitely have that one on my bike.
Yes.
Yeah. So this guy like walks around on its fists like a gorilla, and it's like It's got like hydraulic wrists that you can see the exposed like pistons. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's like mind blowing. Like I don't know, this thing rules.
Gatling gun dick.
Yeah,
Gatling gun. Oh, it does have a dick.
It has a pebis. Question T for timeout. Am I allowed to read copy from this? How much am I allowed to read? Am I allowed to read anything?
You could read like a sentence for fair use.
Okay. I love Tim's writing that just adds like flavor to it, especially if you're a Milsim nerd. So it's like, it's talking about how this is a weird configuration that didn't match other tank heads. And it to quote, for example, the hydraulic expansion cylinders located on either side of the turret head would get dangerously hot during operations. It just adds so much flavor, and it's so good.
And it's realistic, because like these were the things they were finding out. You can draw anything you want. You can make any kind of blueprint. It's not until you put it together and try to use it that you run into issues like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So to combat some of these things, West Virginia then develops the TK2A Tank Kong 2, which is just the same thing, but way more fucked up looking.
Yeah. What if punished monkey?
My favorite thing about this is absolutely the shoulder cannons that have like giant upside down fed magazines.
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah. You can visualize what this does in combat. All the front plating in front, and like it's so good. Also on the back legs, like the smoke dispensers, again, little small notes that just make me fall in love with it. But also monkey.
I do just love any kind of quadrupedal mech, and I love the different approaches you can take to that. It's fantastic. I do want to give a special shout out to the T-34 Gurkha, just because they did a winter variant of it, and I do love to see a winter variant mech, and it has a drum magazine shotgun.
It does, yeah.
That's a PPSH, by the way.
Okay, I don't know shit about anything.
Okay.
It also has like a little buckler shield. It's like definitely like a little shield. Yeah.
It's like exactly where that tank head was deployed, and it was in the fictional version of the Winter War.
Yeah. That's the Winter Soldier.
I like on the art, I really like the little paintings of little pine trees on its legs. Little brush trees. It's a small little thing that I'm obsessed with.
It's fantastic. There's so many fantastic little details.
I do want to give a shout out to the KV-2, a notoriously terrible tank that I really wish they had said that this one kept getting knocked over. But then they do a variant of it where they finally fix the KV-2 by putting it on some leggies.
Quadrupedal. Listen.
That's all the KV-2 needed to work, guys.
I'm going to be real with you. The KV-2P, which is the quadrupedal fantasy Soviet mech, this is what I thought the Shagohod was going to be. I didn't think the Shagohod, when you first see it, it's got its little leggies. I thought it would also have back leggies. I didn't realize it would still be mostly tank and big rockets that require a 5-mile runway or whatever the fuck. I thought it was going to be this motherfucker, and I'm glad that it's here. I'm glad that it was manifested.
We're so glad you're here. Did I show you guys the spread of the Rosenian Tank Factory, by the way?
No. Oh my god, I want to see it.
Zooming in on Brian. What the
Holy
fuck is this?
Shit. Oh. It's a splash page illustration of a mech. Well, it's a factory and an assembly line, and it looks incredible.
So fucking cool.
These are the scrappy motherfuckers that make the gorilla mechs doing their thing.
Oh my god.
Look
it's
at those
so
little
gorgeous.
Guys. The little buddies. I love them.
I don't know where the yellow, like, forklift looking guys with like these guys are in the book, but I love them.
Yeah, let's talk about the engineering mechs real quick.
Yes.
Before we get to my favorite part of this book.
These are some of my favorite things in the whole book. These little Alliance engineering vehicles. First of all, the Vickers engineering walker. That thing is
fantastic.
A bug.
Walker gear, but you don't throw out your back.
Well, like we talked about this in of all things, the Synduality Noir episodes, because one of the coolest parts of that wretched program was the yellow, like, OSHA forklift mechs. And I love a mech that needs other smaller mechs to maintain it, and the way that they can make the engineering mechs like weird and specialized and fucked up. I love it. And all these guys are hopefully union. They're hopefully union. But also,
union.
they are wearing like some high-vis and they're going like, oh, Jesus Christ, we didn't get the material in time. This guy didn't show up with it. They're all certified. They're having a lockout tag out for when somebody did some fucking after-hours jousting on these things and fucked them up again. Like,
You know there was an OSHA during the Never War, right?
You don't know that. There could be
we don't know.
fantasy OSHA.
Did you ask Tim about fantasy OSHA in the world building?
I haven't talked to him yet, unfortunately.
You can ask. Yeah.
But I will be talking. That is one of the questions.
So that was a fucking lie.
Just literally ask, like, which nation had fantasy OSHA?
Which nation had... it wasn't Liberterra. That does not sound like a place that has fantasy.
Had the mob. The mob was working on those.
One other thing about the Alliance engineering vehicles that I love is the crane truck, the Scammell engineering truck, which is a crane, like cherry picker arm, that has a tractor engine on it so that you can have opposable little, like, tool hands.
It's so good. It's so good. It's a solution to a problem that exists, which is maintaining mechs in the field, and it's perfect. But also they just threw that shit on the back of a truck, and I love it.
So much of this is like A and B slammed together, and then like they were like, okay, but what about this? And so they draw another thing that addresses that thing, and it becomes just this beautiful mess. I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, the back tires, it has heavier brace tires because it has to hold up a fucking tractor engine on a boom crane. It's great. But you know what, guys? Yeah.
I'm mentally ill about this next one.
Guys, we need to talk about Attack on Titan real quick.
Oh, we do?
The wall! We have
the next thing
the
you're
wall.
share with us is the wall.
The wall.
So, the wall. Let's talk about the Libertarian States Coast Guard wall.
And mech, or turrets at least, built on multiple trains.
It's perfect.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So
the idea
cool.
is in the world building, the Atlantic is not giant. We're right up next to Britannia. And so America in all of its glory, I'm just going to call it America. We know what we're talking about here. They built a coastal defense wall, and it's two parts. So, you have your lower part, which has 3 running parallel train tracks so that you can have giant tank head turrets traverse the wall to where they're needed, because obviously you can't dot the entire coastal line with enough guns to protect you. So they put it on a train, and then there's a giant wall, which has more trains on top of it. And also there's trains inside the wall to run personnel and ammo around. And it's so good.
It's so good, but it also just convinces me that if we really want good train infrastructure in the United States of America, we need a ground invasion. Like, who's going to volunteer to ground invade America so that we can get good trains? We're not going to get a bullet train from LA to New York unless somebody comes and fucks up Ohio.
I think it's so kind of spot on the way that the text talks about how the process of building the wall was like so reactionary and like touch and go and like test failure, which is exactly how Americans do things. Like, we don't prescribe, we don't really like, we innovate based on problems.
There's not a lot of forethought, there's a lot of reaction.
Yeah, so like the first section of wall had stationary turrets, and they were like, oh shit. it turns out you can fly like a plane head over and around that, and it can't
by
do
the way,
We
anything.
haven't even got to the plane heads.
Yeah. By the way, those exist too. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, those are fucked up. Those got me fucked up.
Some of the great writing here is it goes over an actual incursion onto the coastal libertaria, which is like, I love that. I love this kind of alt history. It's so good.
Nico's sitting there shaking, saying, "God, when will someone invade New England?"
I need it. Well, I will say this: New England actually has pretty decent train infrastructure. I'm sorry to anyone who is about to like subtweet us about the fucking lines up in New England and how they're always delayed or whatever. At least you have some, okay?
I have to go to Chicago first if I want to go to New Orleans from Colorado.
Exactly. We need somebody to attack Texas. Yeah, it's time for Nico Hour. Let's talk about the hen. The UK made a chicken.
The UK made a big chicken.
The UK decided to challenge us. The Fantasy UK decided to challenge us by making us view, conceptualize, and contemplate a Mech cloaca. Like, we have to think about this now.
I didn't think about it as a cloaca, but like it's right there. It's open.
Yeah, it's literally open. Egg vent hoomst. It is just... So this thing, it's a chicken. But its back, first of all, where it would have the tail of the chicken, there's, of course, a gun emplacement. Like, don't get it twisted. There's a second smaller tank. And then the back, it has, like, a cargo ramp. And out of it dispenses egg-shaped tanks. Little walker tanks.
Little walker tanks. Little, like, droideca, quadrupedal. These things are incredible. I am so fucked up about this.
I love, okay, so one of the great details in this book is that whenever it lays out a unit, it talks about the country it was built in, the number of crew it took, all these different armament details, but it also talks about the number of units built. And there are definitely tank heads in this book that, like, one was made because it was stupid.
Yeah.
This motherfucking thing, they made 279 of. So there are designs in this book, I would say, that are less ridiculous than the FT3 hen transport. And they did not get as many units made as the chicken. And I think that's beautiful.
This comes towards the end of the of the Britannica section, and so that's how you kind of know that this was like a late introduced mech. But that's even more impressive that that's how many of them they made. So, but yeah, the little egg guys have like double little turrets on them. They fit one person.
And don't even worry about it. I know you've got your hens and you're like, I've got my hens. Where's my rooster?
Shut the fuck up.
Of course, the FA5 rooster artillery, which is a modification of this where the rooster tail is mortars.
Is mortars. Yep.
It's mortars. It's really good.
I love the little spotting deck at the top for to aim the artillery cannon.
Oh, it's so good.
But the little front legs that help brace for fire,
Yeah.
it's small things that you love to see.
It's really fantastic. And I love mixed in with the actual like colored illustrations and stuff. Sometimes there are like blueprints that show different angles of the machinery and how they're intended to work. And I love that detail too.
I love the Rooster Artillery one has like what it looks like when it kneels down to fire the artillery. It's got like a front, like two like front brace landing gears that like pop out of its chest. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so important to me. But while Fantasy UK was being flightless, they were doing flightless birds. Libertaria or whatever the fuck. Fantasy US was inventing birds that fuck.
Birds that fuck. Birds that fucking look scary as hell.
It's time to talk about plane heads.
Talk about plane heads.
Why does the Warhawk have fucking bombs in its legs? What are we? It's so good.
It has knee bombs.
I don't know why I'm
bombs.
saying this, but plane heads look perverted to me. I don't like them.
You don't like these?
I'd fuck this so hard.
I am wondering where this is in Macross. I would watch every single episode of Macross if it was about these things.
To be fair, these are way more Chad than the Macross jets, but they are also fucked up and evil.
So they have a B-17, and then they have a P-40 Warhawk. You know what these are, if you know. I love things that we've taken from, history. The sexy lady painted on it, its little arm. So how can we explain this to the listeners? So you take the main part of the plane, sometimes called a cockpit, and then you put arms on it that are the wings of the plane, so it can transform and fly. And then it also has legs, so it's got the little bird. It can walk around on its little legs.
It's got thick thighs.
It's got thick thighs.
People will lie to you and try to tell you 2B has thick thighs. This thing has thick thighs.
It's just such a cool concept of like, what if the plane could also turn into a mech? But then it has its little stubby wheel legs because it's still a plane.
So it's skating around like... I was about to say, are there illustrations of this thing flying or running? Because fuck me.
I don't think so, but did I show you guys the pigeon bomber?
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw the pigeon
good.
bomber. It's a little more straightforward, a little more pigeony. I wanted to move directly and swiftly to the proper plane heads because they're evil and I don't like them.
What about the
But
Liberator?
pigeon
Did I send
bomber
you guys
is
the
very
Liberator?
good. What?
Did I send you guys the Liberator?
I'm pretty sure you did, but I don't know where it is.
Is it farther on?
Yeah.
No, it's right after.
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
that's
you
not
didn't
in
send
here.
us the Liberator.
Tell me.
Brian, you
This
gotta
one
liberate us.
I don't like this one, which is why I didn't send it, but I don't know if you'll like this more.
What
love
the
it.
fuck? I actually really do like that more.
Oh my god,
And then
it's
it's
got
got-
hat.
It's got variants.
Oh
I
my
actually
God.
like the variants.
Those rule.
Love it. Oh,
Yeah.
Those fucking
it's just,
rule.
It's just a B-17 and it's perfect. I'm
It's like the
obsessed.
heaviest quad turbine fucking asshole in the world.
I love chunky mechs, it must be said. I love a thick mech.
So we've flown to the sky. Surely, where else could we put tank heads, guys?
There's nowhere else to fight.
There's nowhere else to fight.
Land, air, that's it.
What if I told you we could fight in the sea?
Oh, that shit I drank?
The fuck?
The water?
Yeah, the water. What if we put that shit in the water?
You can't be putting tank heads in the water.
Why the fuck are there subs with legs? What are we doing? I love it.
I love the sub with legs. What I'm wondering about is like how the little machine gun that it has functions underwater.
So this is actually based on an actual underwater assault rifle that the Soviets developed.
Of course they did.
This is a 1-to-1 to that. So it's an underwater machine gun, but it's also carrying a giant torpedo.
It just carries the torpedo.
No room inside the tank head. And then its legs are the propellers, guys. This is so cute. I'm in love with the Mark I Wellman. It's a personal submersible tank head. It's so good.
See, I feel like the Fantasy Americans should have made this because they're the only ones who can get a real spiral on that torpedo when they throw it. This is a football joke.
Yeah. I love its little snub nose
I don't know
submarine.
if you can take that culture. I don't know if somebody who's never watched American football can.
I have fucking watched American football. Okay? My family, like, biologically roots for Auburn. Like, I've been conscripted into the Auburn Tiger Army. And
biologically.
Yeah.
So
it's
we've
important.
gone under the sea. What happens if
These fucking...
we go on top of the sea? Hey guys, you know battleships?
I heard of them.
What if?
What if
Catch
they
me
had
here. Crane arms
crane arms?
and legs for stepping? And not even small legs. These legs are as big as the Dreadnought.
Hey, what if the knees were their own separate boat decks with their own separate artillery cannons on them?
Do you remember
I gotta say, I love the crane arms. You know that makes loading material, like, super easy. The legs got me fucked up.
They're so cool.
This specifically reminds me of Nier Automata's the giant mechs that you fight. The giant robots with the crane arms and everything. And
I didn't get that far in that game.
Anyway, that's for anybody who's played Nier Automata. This is great. That's it. They bulbous the inside to put arms that look like the cranes you use to launch and recover tenders and warplanes. It's still just a boat on top. This very much reminds me of shit. The little kid captain who goes into space in the anime.
No.
It does remind me of Space Battleship Yamamoto.
Well, what I'll say is that I think it's really interesting. So, like, the plane head is one that looks like it needs to transform to be functional. I love this one because it's just the already functional battleship, but more. Like, it doesn't need to transform to become a battleship. It's already a battleship. It's just got bonus stuff. It's really good.
Space Pirate Captain Harlock. That's the reference.
The GBS Nelson also holds and wields a big anchor.
Yeah, that one. It's terrifying.
I'm obsessed with it.
It's so cool. I can't get over it. I can't stress it
I'm trying to imagine being on the deck of these things if they get into like an actual mech melee fight and the deck is just like fucking going and you're just like, you're done for. Like, don't be on deck. Be strapped to something.
You're done for.
I want to give an honorable mention to the Shangri-La, the LSS Shangri-La, which is what if carrier then attached to another carrier to launch what's
better than one carrier?
Heads.
Two carriers.
I'm obsessed with it. That's it.
Carriers with two eyes like Men in Black 2.
Shield helicarrier Hoomst. Get the fuck out of here.
And that is the final issue of our Britannican mechs. I don't know if I showed you guys this spread of Akagawa City from Yamaichi, but this is what it opens
obsessed.
on. It looks so cool.
What if Japan?
What if Japan? One of the, just off the bat, because it kind of touches on every single Yamaichi mech, one of the coolest things about this part of the book is that it opens on Akagawa City and talks about how the Yamaichi Dominion uses ceramic composite mech armor. It's so fucking cool.
I love ceramic armor. No, there's like a whole class thing. It's like there's this famous red clay that they have access to.
Yeah.
And you can have the really nice just red clay fired pots, or you can have pots that are fired with like partially fresh red clay and then partially recovered clay from older pots. But then they found like if you smelt this shit like 3 times, more of the metal comes out in it, and so it becomes like a metal alloy ceramic composite. And it doesn't look as pretty, so it's kind of low rent. But then when they got into warfare, it's like, oh, this shit whips for armor, though.
Yeah, it's
I
light.
love that.
It's such
like
a cool
if
detail.
Ming vases were like, you just if you kill a Ming vase 3 times and then refire it, you can't. It's bulletproof. Don't even worry about it. Let's find out together. Everybody, bring your Ming vases. We're gonna make armor.
I'm sorry. Bring our what?
Our Ming vases.
Yeah, I just have that. Hey guys, something I love about this is it's just samurai armor mechs, but also like World War II history. Hey guys, Japanese tanks fucking sucked. They couldn't make good tanks. So this is a part of the rewriting of the quote unquote history that I really enjoy is when you have Japan in a World War II themed AU, they are either how they were in real life, which is their machinery kind of fucking sucked and it was, a time and a place, or you whiplash so hard to the opposite that they are glorious and undefeatable. And I think this book does a really good part of like, oh, this is kind of a middle step. They're at par with the others. They come up later in the book. But also all of their mechs have a, what do you call the side katana that you use to,
Wakizashi?
Yeah. I love it. I love that note. And they also all have little banners like samurai.
They do. And they're so small compared to the rest. Like, normally the samurai ones are like proportional to the person. These are still proportional to like a person, but on the mech. So it's just very small. And I just love it so much.
Yeah. They all have sashimono. And I think that is just, it's so great. It's so great. They all have them. And like the bigger the tanks get, the less they make sense. It's really good.
So good. But then they're also like, they have spears and then like, that kind of ceramic armor where you kind of, I don't know how how
yeah,
bugs
like
have
plates.
Yeah. But they're like over each other partially.
Yeah,
like
they have like
roof.
carapace.
Yeah,
looks.
that's the word. That's the word. I love that look on this. But also then you have the notes of like the functionality of it. Something I want to talk about is the steppies on all of the mechs. Like every country has their own version of what a foot looks like. So like the American one is a big stompy. The Britannia one is little bird legs kind of vibe. And then theirs is, what do you call those little sandals that they wear?
Tabby.
They've all got kind of a toe energy, which is an evil thing I've just said.
You know when you like wear those socks with the little like strappy shoe? I want to shout out the Hirotada, which so it has it's a infantry command type in the book. And so it has like more markings of like a samurai. So it has like a red shoulder palisade. It has a mark of an oni on its chest. But also they've taken where the banner is, the samurai banner, and they've put a radar antenna around it. So it's multifunctional.
I like
which
that.
Is really
cool.
cool.
These are communication hubs more than anything else. Like it has ceramic plating, but it's meant for observation, which I think is great because it also has another handheld antenna, and it looks like a fan. It looks like an Uchiwa fan.
But it's also just an antenna for command, which is just really cool.
It's so good.
I want to talk about the S5Y Shirogaru, which is just kind of another one of these. Did I give that one to you guys or no?
I don't.
Oh,
think
I'm too
you
far
did.
ahead, I think.
Yeah, I think it's not.
No, you didn't give it to us.
The most important part of it is that it has a sedge hat.
Oh yeah, the Shiogaru. Okay, we
there
went
he
past
is.
that one.
I'm obsessed with him. He's so cool looking, man.
So it has a sedge hat. So it has like a conical like rice paddy farmer hat, and also it has a big spear, which the book calls a lunge mine. That thing explodes.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
that's really good.
And it like you can totally see this thing like doing a sick jump, like down leap thing with the lunge mine and just kicking ass.
it's a shaped charge, which those weren't a big thing, but like to punch through armor, that's such a cool thing. And then the other side is just a regular spear, so after you use the charge, you can stabby stab.
It's great.
So then, yeah, the one with flippers.
Oh my god, I don't love this one, but I understand it.
I think it's
we
really
know.
cute, mostly.
Can we talk about the giant flippers on the feet, though, for swimming? So it's an amphibious tank head, and so you can put flippers on it.
Yeah, the flippers are cool because they're modular, and the mech can just step onto them to like get to equip them, which is really, really cool.
That is really cool.
And then it is basically just like, it's a very small ship head, basically. It's got a little tiny boat deck. It is really cute. That's really the only reason I liked it. I just find it very adorable.
We need to talk about the red demon.
Yep.
Yeah, we gotta
So
talk about the Nobunaga.
So this might be my peak in this whole thing, besides the wall. Fucking Red Devil, let's go.
I mean, this thing is gorgeous.
Can
Like,
someone
there's really
take a
not.
crack at describing this? Because I don't think I can do it justice.
So this is a red tank head, which has your typical gun emplacement on top, but the whole thing is done in this beautiful gleaming kind of crimson with the ceramic plating that we've gotten to know well. It's got backbend legs. It's got spikes on the feet to ground it, presumably for fire. It has great layered palisades. And then on the front, the most important part, it does have a demon mask front in kind of a blue in contrast to the red, from which the barrel of the cannon extends from the forehead. And it's gorgeous. It's got lots of different trim markings and contrasts and characters and white against the red. It is really it's a showpiece. And again, it echoes like what we were talking about with the ceramic. The red ceramic, the fine red clay ceramic, was the higher quality. So for this to be red all over is also like a cultural statement, which I think is cool.
It totally is. And another thing that like the text mentions too is that these were like their like showpiece, like extremely difficult to put together, extremely resource intensive. So most front-facing squadrons would literally have one. And that is so cool to just have like literally the main character of your squad. Like, it's sick. I love this thing.
It's also named after a pretty cool guy in Japanese history, Nobunaga. That's it. I just think
was
this
he
one is
involved
so...
in the Battle of Sekigahara? I can't remember.
If I recall.
But it was around that time period.
Yes. Anyway.
I did a book report on Sekigahara once. By book report, I mean historical paper. I don't know why the fuck I said it like that.
Anyway, I think this is just such a cool design, and I love it. It's much more thick. It's much more like it has flared designs. Like it looks more like traditional samurai armor, like ceremonial armor intentionally, but it's also built. It's over-engineered for what we've seen so far. This is like, of course, there's going to be so few of these. Look how beautifully designed this is, and how like well designed this is. You can just pump these out of a factory.
Yeah. Do you guys want to have a crab rave?
Hell yeah, I do, boys.
I love all of the. So a lot of them have had animal themes. The Fantasy Japan ones, they do a lot of different animals and insects, and I love it. But the crab mechs are so good.
The Type 11 Gosutokani, which is like,
God.
These are so cool. A lot of the text I skimmed, the story of these guys and how like they were kind of discarded for being a failure on the front lines, and then they kind of came in clutch during like an emergency land invasion, like is so cool. I just think that they rule, and like the idea that they deployed them on the front lines and they failed, and then they found out how good they were at crossing like shoals and volcanic rock.
Right,
Yeah.
Terrible for the open plains fighting, because they literally say they're made with pig iron, which is hilarious. But when they're in fantasy Philippines and Indonesia, the archipelago, they're just invaluable because of their mobility.
So these are tank turrets just on crab legs. They have a machine gun arm, and then they have a big pincer wrench looking.
They said, what if the Mechs and Ghosts in the Shell were fucking badass as fuck?
They are very what are those fucking things called?
The Tachikomas.
Tachikomas. I wanted to say Tamagotchi. I knew that was wrong, and I was like,
They're very Tamagotchi coded. Yep.
Because they are my friends, especially the Type 33. Hey, Kagani, that is my favorite.
So good.
the same thing, just with way heavier armor. It's orange. It's got a bigger cannon.
Still has the crab arm. Has pop-up missiles in its head. It's so
the
good.
pop-up missiles are so cool. And it has a flip-down firing brace because its cannon is so much bigger than the other one.
Yeah,
to brace it for firing. It's there's a technical design drawing of this, which is number one in Japanese, which is fucking so cool.
Oh, it is.
But it's like,
that's super cool.
I'm obsessed with this one. This one is probably one of the peaks, right? Like, it's much more of a modern tank design. It has the front edged armor with reactive plates. It has the same carapace armor.
It's pretty good, but I don't know if it's as powerful as the Type 77 Kabutomushi. I fucking love this thing.
Is this what you wanted out of the Shagohod?
I didn't think they would go this cool. I think the Fantasy Soviet quadrupedals were adequate. This is going from adequate to excellence. This is a beetle.
It's a rhinoceros beetle.
I don't know what to tell you. It's a beetle. It looks great.
The tank turret has the little beetle spears that they have at the top of their little spear. I
love. I didn't read the text on this one. Did they? Because like what beetles do with those is they flip their opponents if they are in battles. Like there's beetle fights and stuff. I love the idea that you could use up all your shells and then you're just like, fuck it, and you charge a different tank head and just flip it over.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
So one of the notes on this is the rear compartment was designed to be bigger so it could compensate for the recoil of the rotary cannon so that they wouldn't have to readjust every time. But apparently it was so nausea-inducing to be bounced back and forth, which I think is just great. That's just perfect world building.
Everybody throwing up inside the big bug.
Babe, get in the big bug. We throwing up in here.
Get in, loser, we're puking.
Who up? Throw it up in the Kabutomushi. All right, and now we're back to the cursed realm of plane heads. Alice, you take over. I don't want to look at them. I will say the Japanese plane heads are a little more tolerable to me.
They're bad.
I like the face designs more.
They face down, ass up. This is how we like to be a plane head. I think the design on these are really cool. The plane engines are built into it, so they're jet engines type. I want to speak specifically to the Komori special attack unit use. Hey guys, what if kamikaze, but you just put a giant sword on the front of your plane?
Mosquito!
So they have like damaged planes where they just shoved a giant, huge katana on it for a dive bomb attack.
I love this drawing because of all the weathering and battle damage it has and all the like exposed like infrastructure in there. It just looks incredible.
It's so cool. Yeah, and the use of the engines. And then you get into the, hey guys, what if Macross but cool, the Kawasami jet engine.
Again, this is
plane.
an evil one to me. Not the least which because it has an evil face.
It's got an evil face. It's got the articulated arm engines. There's a cool variant, the black variant, the black and red variant that I'm obsessed with.
Totally.
The Tengu Squadron. It's so good. That's it. I think their planes are cool. I really want to see what one of these looks like fighting another one of these, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would want to see them in action, like a dog fight.
Yeah, I agree. This is why we need the show. Let us write the show with Tim.
Or manufacture some kits and then we can hold them in our hands and fly them around in our rooms.
The kits of these would go incredibly hard.
One full-page illustration that I really like is the Yamaichi Castle guns.
Yeah.
I love that the Yamaichi Castle does capitalize on the idea that I think some people have had if you see a Japanese-style castle, which is like, damn, what if that could get up and walk? And not like the terrible, like, immortal engines or whatever the fuck, but like, sort of, I guess we have to give in to
Don't evoke that. Don't evoke that here. We don't need that.
You know we're going to have to cover it, right? That's
It's
mech.
not a mech, it's a land ship. God
That
damn
is
it.
mech.
They're Mechs.
They're mech. Anyway, the castle guns are great. They're turrets on the moving castle. I love it.
I love the vibe of it, because, like, something that is evoked in this is, like, the personalization of warfare weapons. Like, the libertarians have, you know, their sexy ladies. They have their little names on them. The Britannia ones have, like, they're not as done, but then the Japanese ones, like, this has a cool pattern on the front that's very evocative of, this is protecting a castle. It has that royal vibe to it, so it has markings on it, but it's still tech as fuck. This was the second full page spread that just made me go, fuck, I need to hold this book in my hands. Like, this spread is so cool, and I love it.
Can we do a final Yamaichi shout out to the Type 11 D4 Koryu?
Lobster.
It's a crawfish. It's a crawfish.
It's a fucking single man sub, but it's a crawfish. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so important to me. I think we should
It's
have
weird,
a
like,
boil.
harpoon, double harpoon is so funny to me.
We need mech-sized potatoes and corn on the cob so that we can have a boil.
Hey guys. I played a couple of gacha games about boat girls, so I was ready for this next segment. They gave the Musashi arms.
Is this Mecha Musume?
This is Mecha
Are these
Musume.
women?
They gave the Great Warship Musashi arms. Each arm is a different boat. It's got its own boat on it.
We put boats on your boat.
And then its control tower is like an imperial castle. It is. You fuck off. Get over yourself. This is too cool.
It's unbeatable.
I like they also have ones with leg steppies, so they have the Futsushi. I love its legs more. This is more realized, I feel like, than the other one because it has like palisade guns. It's very evocative of Warhammer Titans in my mind. I mean, the whole aesthetic of the what's the Japanese empire?
Yamaichi.
Yamaichi really evokes a mix of Warhammer 40k Imperial and Tau kind of vibes, which, I mean, they evoke each other. But I love its big little toes. and the carrier, the Shinano, which just has a carrier deck on top, its own little castle, and then it has 2 battleship arms. Because why not? Why not make a carrier group its own mech?
I mean, we learned that from the previous one, right? Why have one carrier when you can have 2? Well, why have anything when you could have more?
More.
Well, I think it's time for us to segue into the darkest part of this alternate history. What if Hitler did find something in North Africa?
Bro, this
What
thing
if there was a
fucking had
point to that front?
hands. What are we doing? This was such a twist. This was a twist to the narrative. I was like, oh, we doing this now?
The Thulian Nazi occultism was true, but only about mechs.
Hey, Brian, what happened during the Zeehond expedition?
Nobody knows. This is like full.
Well, that makes it easy to discuss.
This is like full cosmic horror. We suddenly take like a full turn into cosmic horror. I gave you the spread of this really cool night dug up thing, right?
Fucking
And it looks like a
cool.
medieval night. Like it's an excavation that they're doing of this almost like partially decomposed mech. And the pieces that are still recognizable do look like medieval European knight's armor. It's really cool.
This isn't the first time this has come up in the genre. Like, this is a Mazinger thing. Like, ancient mech revival is such a thing. This is such a cool version of it because, like, the book will go into detail on, like, the different, like, one of the great strengths of this is that it takes, like, an encyclopedic tone. And so it's able to say, hey, we don't really know what happened. This guy said this thing, but this guy said this other thing. And that's such an interesting, like, thought process to have, right?
Mm-hmm. There's historiography here. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they had the fantasy Germany did a haunted, like, land invasion, basically, of an ancient Britannican isle that had a bunch of fucked up technology on it. And it was bad. It seemed like it was really bad.
For those of you at home, this is just, they find a mech that looks like one from Knights and Magic. If you watch that anime. That's it. I love it. But yeah, cosmic horrors, and that's how we got the power to make horrifying mechs.
That's how we got the power to have Hugo Boss design all of our mechs. Fuck Hugo Boss.
The book will make several references to this, but like it's heavily implied that like the Nazi cult that did this, the leader like somehow gained immortality on this expedition. And
it's a Rasputin energy to this figure.
It's a Rasputin energy. And we got Rasputin in here. People like got sick for no reason and become like there's a degree to which some of this is cosmic horror and some of it is just like, was this just uranium?
Cosmic stochastic radiation. Like, okay. Hell yeah.
So like one of the things they found was like a big ball that was an unlimited energy source. This is a handy tool that will help us later.
Well, see, unfortunately, this is the reality of Tesla, the car company. Because Tesla cars, okay, I'm going to do my Type 5 on Tesla cars. Tesla cars are made by a company that doesn't really know how to make cars well and is an extremely unsafe workplace environment. But they cracked battery technology better than pretty much any other EV manufacturer. And it's so frustrating. It's like I have no respect for most of Tesla's design choices, their aesthetics, their market presentation, definitely none for Elon Musk. But those batteries, though. And that's what we got here. We got some really powerful batteries fueling terrible shit. Anyway, that's how Tesla is like Nazi tanks.
That's exactly how it is like that, yeah.
What are the words you just said?
You heard them, bitch.
Wait, here's my bit, and I need people to know I don't believe it. Well, actually, they're not Nazi tanks, they're Wehrmacht tanks, because... No, we can't do this. Let's talk about Nazi tanks.
The Schützenkeiler Osf D is a rhino.
Yeah. There's a lot of standing man emoji mechs that are the Sturmschreiter or whatever.
And the Panzerkopf aus C,
Yeah.
which are your typical P3s. But yeah, the Os D. The Os D.
No, I need you to, Alice, first of all, I need you to say the name of this one, but yeah.
The Schützenkeiler?
Okay, yeah. All right,
The
and Brian said
Schützenkeiler
it.
Os
Okay.
D.
It's a boar. It's not a rhino. It's a boar.
Oh, it's a boar. It's a boar. You're right. It's a piggy.
It's
I just
so
looked at it
good
again.
because I think about the Black Forest and I think about like the history of like medieval like hunting boar, and like there is a certain austerity in these designs that harkens not just to, because there's an interesting thing that's happening here, right? This is definitely World War II inflected, but like the fantasy British troops are wearing more like World War I like attire, and so there is, I think, a blending of almost the Kaiser Wilhelm energy of World War I into some of the Nazi imagery of World War II, and I like that in symbols like a boar and in symbols, you know, that we see throughout. Mostly, I love the overgrown boar that has the greenery on it. It looks really good.
It is so sick. That's my favorite one too.
Yeah, the camo patterns, love them.
But these guys are made for ramming. They actually have light artillery. Some of them have cannons, but the big one on the front page just has a big ass fucking... What do you call that thing on the front?
That's a cow catcher, baby.
That's a cow catcher.
Or it's called the pilot on a train. But yeah, just like...
I think pilot was the word I was looking for, because I was like, I don't really know.
It's closer to a train, so I get that. Can we give just a little note to the Khazarian engineering vehicles? I love the giraffe. It's so cute.
The giraffe, yeah.
It's a tall what if you were lifted by the forklift? But not in a cherry picker way, in a different way.
In like a Titanic way.
And they also have a very cute, almost like raptor looking, they call it the Mechaniker, which is just basically like a single pilot utility vehicle, which I really like. I like Raptor-esque designs, so I was going to be a fan of that regardless.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so real. But we need to talk because, hey guys, what's Alice's favorite tank from World War II?
Well, I think you're going to tell us.
It's the unreliable piece of shit but pretty great Tiger. So in this book, we have the Panzerritter II Konnes Tiger As V, which is so fucking cool.
It looks like a castle. It looks like a European castle. Yamaichi had a lot of like Japanese castle inspiration. This one has European castle look, European knight armor look, and also like all the most austere, beautiful, horrible parts of Nazi accessorizing. It's really cool looking.
It's really, really cool looking.
It's Teutonic as fuck. That's the word I was looking for.
So something, hey, throw shade at Nazi Germany always. They note in here that they found in the design documents that only 1 in 12 was combat ready when deployed.
Exactly. The energy of all these Nazi super weapon projects, they're jank and broken.
But they look scary. So that's the important part.
It has chains over its crotch, which I really like. It's got this like brutalist Germanic warrior vibe to it. That is just pretty fucking cool. But also it's just got sigils and shit, and you're like, oh, I love Warhammer 40k. How about the Minerlaumer Panzerkopf?
I don't even know what to do with this thing. It's too fucked up.
It's scooping.
It's scooping. It's
a
scooping,
tractor.
but like...
It's a tractor with a gun and scoop arms, and it's ridiculous.
It's so good.
But they're like, the fact that it's this one is I think a similar reaction to Nico had to the plane heads, which is that the fact that its arms bend down at the elbow is deeply evil to me. I don't like that at all.
Then we can move swiftly on because we need to talk about a unit. We need to talk about an absolute boy.
No, we didn't talk about the Hellscape Gate for 2 seconds. Guys,
okay.
Wolfenstein. That's it. This entire page spread of the gate is so much. That's it. I love it.
This is where the book starts surreptitiously sprinkling the word Godhead around, and you're like, hold on, what the fuck does that mean? We're going to find out.
Surreptitiously sprinkling the Godhead.
So, which one do you want to talk about, Nico, in this next little string? Because I think I know. Is it the Panzerblitzerzeich?
I don't like it when you talk to me like that, but yes, it is.
What is the...
It's Godzilla.
Panzerblitzerzeich.
This is Godzilla.
Nazis made Godzilla?
Tesla
This is Godzilla. This is Diablo. This is like a big dragon Godzilla Diablo mech.
It's so stupid good.
The spines on the back are like Tesla coils. It looks really fantastic.
It has a voltaic cannon. It's got Metal Gear Ray ass little toesy, like hydraulic toesies.
Yes.
It's got a wheel on its tail so that it can move, and it's also got what are those things on its tail?
Talent? Oh, guns?
Are those guns? The
No, it's like stabilizer fins or
that might be what it is. I was thinking those things that are on motorcycles.
mufflers?
Exhaust pipes?
Exhaust?
Mufflers, exhaust, yeah. Exhaust was what I was thinking of.
Well, one thing I also want to go back to real quick, I do love, so there is Fantasy Russia in this, as Brian mentioned, was defeated. So there's West Rosenia, which is your communist republic, and then there's East Rosenia, like West and East Berlin, but this is fantasy Nazi occupied part of Russia. And so there's a Kong type that has been converted and they've put weaponry on it from...
They put a Flak 88 on it, boys.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I like the depiction here of co-opted enemy technology.
Repainted, yeah, I like it a lot too.
Very, very much late stage Germany, where they were fielding T-34s in their own schema because they needed the numbers. I do want to talk about the Zoids, which is the Panzerblitzeis 2, which is just from Zoids. That's just a Zoids, guys.
They started making Nazi laser dinosaurs, which I don't feel like we should have let them do that.
Well, but then we wouldn't have this drawing, which is of it alongside an armored truck, and I am just like, the scale that evokes, and also the fact that it has two big-ass, like, voltaic cannons on its shoulders. I am deeply, deeply ill about this machine.
I mean, this whole series, yeah.
Yes, they're all good, but Brian, I need you to tell me about the machine I know you are most ill about. Which is the Mammoth Offsby. It's elephant.
It's an elephant.
Brian loves an elephant.
Elephants are my favorite animal.
This is great. This is beautiful. This is so good.
The trunk is like the biggest, blockiest bullshit cannon you've literally ever seen in your life.
210 millimeter mortar cannon. What the fuck are we doing?
Fucked up. It's so fucked up looking. I love it so much. It's got weird little cannon tusks. It's got two Shar Aznavour looking guys arguing in front of it. I don't know why.
Well, they have kind of a Mongolian look to them, which I think is interesting. Like, there's definitely...
It's made from the West guys, or the East guys.
East
yeah,
Rosenia.
I think it's interesting. Yeah. There's literally a Caucasian look here, and not in the sense of whiteness, in the sense of from the Caucasus.
No, like caucus, yeah.
Yeah. Your mech looks white as hell. You can't be building a mech like that, white baby.
I'm dying. This would be my first kit if they came out with these.
Yeah.
I love that big ass gun. It's so big.
I think I'm just a hater for mechs that look like airplanes, because as we move into the plane heads for this power...
You're not a plane woman. You don't like planes. No planes for this gal.
I struggle with these until we got to the obvious Messerschmitts, the Horton Ho 229.
Yeah, the Horton Ho are my favorite one. That thing looks
legitimately evil. It has almost like a manta ray silhouette with like little clawed feet. It looks like awesome. A demon.
It looks like an awesome demon.
They also have a carrier for tank heads here. The Faka Gillies.
I love that. It's like a helicopter.
I know, it's so cool looking though. It's so extra.
It's got like it looks like it's got Yeah, that is interesting. I hadn't noticed before how like thin the back section of this thing was. It kind of looks like a mosquito or like a dragonfly.
I think it's meant to evoke a dragonfly.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Hornet is the Horton is a Hornet. And then their main planes are just, we've done those before. I still want to see what it looks like to see these guys in a dogfight.
I know. I need to see them in flight. I need to see them in a dogfight. Alice, am I correct in thinking that the Seehund is the U-boat?
It's the U-boat. It's a U-boat. Yeah. The Seehund is a U-boat. It's got torpedoes on it. It's got a cool hook arm. Little pirate hook arm. It's just a little...
Man, this motherfucking thing makes me want to see what the tankhead version of the Lusitania would look like.
But to be clear, all of these subs, and I think it's something that's pretty unique because like the battleships are full ass battleships. All of the subs in this and all of the subheads are like 2 to 3 crew. They're all personal subs. They remind me of in Gundam Wing, the Cancer and the Pisces. You know, just little guys.
Yeah.
Just bopping around doing shit.
And that makes sense to me because, I mean, the interesting thing about U-boats historically is that their captains had to be fairly independent because when they sank and the further they got from Allied territory, their communications got really bad. And so they had to make a lot of personal calls. So I like the idea that it is almost like a personal... It's you and your two bros. It's like you and your fucked up Nazi polycule in here. And you're just having to take things on your own initiative.
Yeah. I want to breeze past the German or Kaiserian ship heads because they do look very similar to the other ones. Just a quick... Did I give you guys these? You just want to breeze past
these huge Teutonic knights with literal Zweihanders?
Yeah, they have Zweihanders. They look like chess pieces. They're sick as hell. Also, one of them has a big mace.
What about that carrier? Can we talk about the dragon?
That's what I want to talk about, is the carrier. This fucking thing, the grossest Flugzeugträger Graf Zeppelin.
You're so brave for trying to say it.
I said it perfectly. Shut up. This fucking thing is amazing. It's
this is
so
a kaiju.
Stupid. Yeah.
This looks like the kaiju hammerhead from Pacific Rim, but it's a carrier.
Its flight deck articulates like a fucking tail and a head. It separates. I love the mammoth to give it scale of how fucking giant this piece of shit is.
It has a mammoth, the elephant one, next to it to show, and it's tiny comparatively.
It's like the size of a couple of toes.
This thing is a mega structure. Like, it's so cool looking. I can't get over it. It's got a big mouth cannon.
It has a mouth that's open with a cannon. It's so... It reminds me of Blue Arpeggio, which we probably can't cover, but same vibes. Same vibes. Something I do want to say about the art style here, which is really cool. It's a wood-decked carrier.
Oh, neat. I didn't pick up on that.
Something that Germany struggled with and Imperial Japan is they had wood deck, which... Don't know if you know anything about bombs and fire. Very susceptible.
Oh, and probably splinters everywhere. I mean, shrapnel's bad enough, but like, oof.
Oh yeah, it's bad. But I really like that take on this. But it's just so fucking cool because it has the launch catapults. Because the plane heads don't actually need a runway, so it can look like this weird fucked up piece of shit. I love it.
It's like, I mean, damn. Damn. You can't say anything but damn.
I want to talk about Nazi super weapons real quick.
Yes.
So Nazis were crazy for a lot of reasons, but they had big ideas, and by big ideas, I mean they just let anybody design anything, and then they're like, yeah, let's at least make one. So the mouse was a prototype that was never made. That was just what if tank but bigger. So in this, they have the rat, which is what if TANKHEAD, but bigger? And it's so unwieldy huge. It's such a giant land battleship thing.
It's so wide.
This thing is like, you can't take this anywhere. It's going to be creating new geographical features. You can't be stepping with this thing. At least with the battleship, you're in the ocean and like, yeah, you're destroying marine life, but you're not literally leveling a village when you move 2 feet. Oh my God, this thing is too fucking big.
It's too big. And then they also have, they have a couple of the rail guns that we knew, like the Gustav and the, fuck the other one. But the Gustav, instead of being a train, they took trains from you, Nico. They put this thing on.
They took trains from me.
Big ass
No,
legs.
this is still a train. This is still a train. The Schwer Gustav, those legs fold into themselves so that they can put it on a track.
Oh my God, they are. Greatest design ever.
We're back.
Holy shit.
We're back.
Holy shit. What if it could get off the railway? Oh my God.
This is sometimes how I wish trains could work. Like, I wish they could get up and walk away.
I like it how it uses the back arms because, you know, the Gustav had to have an entire rail carrier to carry its charges that they had to crane into place. It's just little notes like that I love. I love the Gustav.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's time for us to talk about, you know, it's been coming up casually in conversation.
Just cash. We've been dropping it.
The Godhead. And that which powers the Godhead.
That which
How
powers
is the
the Godhead.
Godhead, Nico?
Cosmic orb.
Cosmic
I'm
orb.
pondering my orb.
The Schwarzner Reaktor und Experimenteller Stahlenkanonen Panzerkopf.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
The orb.
the orb.
It looks like meat. I love that about it.
It looks like a heart.
Yeah, it literally looks like a heart. It's got valves, and it's like that was the reactor that they were using to develop this technology that they recovered from the ancient knight.
Yep.
And they're using it to build a giant woman.
Warhammer 40k is real and it can hurt you. This bitch is floating. Can we talk
Please
about it?
describe the Godhead for me, Alice.
So the Godhead is how do I describe this? It's couple 100-meter tall floating fortress that has giant arms with cannons on it, iconography all over it of their religion, giant titty lasers, and a head that looks like Zeus himself gazing upon you.
My note on it is, what if the Super Dimension Fortress Macross was a Mind Flayer?
Yeah, this thing looks like an Iron Maiden gone wrong. Like, even wronger.
Oh, that's a good call for this, yeah.
And yeah, its lower body, it doesn't have limbs. It does float. And it's got this like bell shape to it, so it looks like a skirt almost, and it's just this solid wall of machinery.
I've probably said this on the show about many things, but this is legitimately one of the coolest drawings I have ever seen in my entire life. I am obsessed with this thing to a degree.
It's
the
really
sense of scale of them below it as they're launching it, just
there's the sky behind it is blood red, and the sun through presumably all of this smoke that's turning the sky blood red is acting like a halo behind the headpiece of the Godhead, and it's like it's all there, all the religious iconography you could want.
The like piping detail on the bottom is like almost Geigery too. It's just, it evokes so many horrible things. It's so good.
But then the religious iconography like pieced onto it, not as overt as Warhammer 40k might be, but I love it. The little statue at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about how one of the cool things that an alternate history story can do is let you kind of map the gravity of things. So one of the things the text says about this thing is when they turned it on for the first time, it emitted a pulse so strong that it was breaking radios in the Yamaichi Dominion, which, like, if you think about it, is basically like, what if you turned something on in Germany and people could hear it in Japan?
Yeah.
That's how fucked up this thing is.
It's crazy. You want to talk about scale.
Yeah.
Scale.
This is the most story we get, which is the project to destroy the Godhead, the operation. What unifies a world better than anything? That's right, a giant, horrifying Eldritch mecha coming out of nowhere. So people scared. Guys, Godhead not good, right?
Godhead's bad, but also it's the best.
You do not, under any circumstances, have to hand it to the Godhead.
But it's got its big old hand. It's asking for me. So there's a combined operation between Yamaichi and the Alliance and Liberterra to fight this thing before it can, end all of us. There's this cool story of Yamaichi sending in their combined fleet, it getting fucked up, and them launching an airborne attack, as well as the Libertarians launching an airborne attack. And it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's like, what if the Death Star, we didn't have a Jedi, and we just had to have approximately 100,000 people volunteer to go on a suicide mission so that the world wouldn't end? Like, it's one of the writing here is actually really spectacular about how this all went down.
Yeah.
Also, the Godhead was made from a prophecy, which I love the undercurrent that in this whole plot of, they were just crazy cultists who had taken over the government of Khazaria to make this, which is really cool.
I think it's interesting because I mentioned Hellboy before, and like a big element of Hellboy set during World War II is that like the Thule Society and the occultists within the Nazi regime were present. The shit that they dealt with was real, but they were still to an extent marginalized. And this is the inverse of that, right? It's like, no, they seized power. They are the leading force in this war machine. I really think that is such an interesting take on that kind of alternate history.
I totally agree. I was thinking about that too.
You ever a marginalized Thulian? Anyway, let's talk about the epilogue. Who do you think launched Sputnik in this universe? I'm looking at the livery here, and I can't quite figure it out.
Kaiserom. It could be like a new state that comes out of the end of the war or something.
Yeah, it seems like it must be.
Yeah.
Also, did you notice that there are 2 moons?
I did. Erd has 2 moons. We don't have 2 moons. Where's our second moon?
See, if we had had 2 moons, I don't think the Cold War would have gone as bad as it, because like we each could have had one.
Oh. I just want to show you guys some cool sketches that are in the back of the book here before we do an important task. This is one of the sketches of the Zeehond expedition that is just like pretty marvelous.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
It has the drawings of the upright and complete mech that they found, and it's got this such a weird stretched out structure, and you can see exactly how it lends itself to the creation of the Godhead later.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It looks really, really neat. I love that they have these in here.
In the timeline portion, I do love the little like fake historical little like, oh, hey guys, look, this is like an old drawing of these gods, which is really cool.
I love texturizing a design to create different time periods and illustrations. I do think that's really fantastic. It's a great touch.
It's a good idea, yeah.
There's also a fake newspaper, which is pretty cool. Monsters, Empire's terrifying new war machines appear on the front lines. I don't know. Shit like that is so fucking dope. Yeah, it's just every bit of this, and then you get to the last section with the Godhead, and you're like, what what? This is an art book?
Yeah.
It really does justify its description as a narrative art book. There is a narrative culmination in this book. It's really great.
But we have to do a thing, and that is we have to give a number to that. Well, we have to give a number to the drawings, really, more than anything else.
I think we have to rate those goddamn mechs.
Yeah. Alice, how do you feel?
I love this. This is exactly my shit. Every single one is so coolly designed, and like as a milsim nerd, I see a lot of where this is coming from, but also what an envisioning of a TANKHEAD, which if you know about the Stewart, these ain't the Stewart. These are little eggs. These are little eggs from a hen. And I could not have come up with that. I did scream out loud when I got to the fucking Godzilla mech, because I was just like, okay, I'm in. But between that, and I am going to count the Coastal Defense Wall as a mech because I believe it articulates as one. Everything in here was cool, even the ones that were kind of like whatevers. It was weak with the planes because I really can't understand why you would make a plane that looks like that. But I know this is because we couldn't really have art of them fighting in this, which I think it does kind of like, it's hard for me to envision what a battle between a mech-sized battleship and ground tank heads would look like. And I can read that and everything, but that does kind of suffer it a little bit. But the actual art itself, beautifully designed. I get a sense of scale in this. What I love about mechs is a mass production mech, and this book is chocked full of them. And I just really want to spend more time in this universe. I love the Nobunaga. I love the wall. I love the elephant. I love the Sturm Tiger. Just all of these just hit in a way that really resonates personally with me. But I can also completely envision the universe where these came through. This one is going to be a 9 out of 10 for me. It's great. I want to see more of this universe, and I really hope we see more TANKHEAD. What about you, Nico?
So I'm a little divided because on the one hand, I liked a lot of these designs, especially the ones inspired by things like crabs and the crawfish and bugs and specific animals, the boar. I really like those elements. I love the chunkiness. I love so much of the practicality and utility of these machines. But I am, at the end of the day, not a milsim nerd. So at a certain point, I almost got like visual fatigue from like, oh yeah, this is war. This is a war machine. These are the colors that they're going to paint these in. This is what, like the Nobunaga stood out so much because it was in what they describe as like parade colors, you know? And I love to see the variants and things that would give my eye like some different interest. For me, a thing that I was set up for and that I felt was missing is like in the description of the escargot, they talk about how now in the post-war period, a lot of them have been converted to campers or food trucks. And I thought that was so cool. I would have loved to see a few illustrations in the epilogue, not just the Sputnik satellite, but like a few illustrations of like some of these tank heads converted for civilian use. Like, I would have loved to see how they have become... When you build so much machinery around this, I would have loved to see a scrapyard. I would have loved to see some things like that. But again, that's so much personal taste and that's so much personal interest. Like, I can't fault the book for not catering completely to me specifically. I think there is so much imagination here. There are so many unique, interesting elements, like the ceramic armor, like the bird motifs in Grand Brittany. I just think it's such a cool object and a cool accomplishment. I am going to give it an 8. I think it's high for me. It's not everything for me, but I did really enjoy my time with it. What about you, Brian?
I was sitting at a pretty comfy 8 for most of this book. When I was doing most of my prep, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to give this an 8. And then I actually like got to the Godhead stuff and started reading about it and started like that image started to get contextualized for me. And I am not kidding, like that this image like has changed my brain chemistry. I love the Godhead so much. It's so scary. It's so horrible. It's like one of the worst things you've ever fucking seen in your life. The description of people coming up through the like impassable Kaiserian mountainsides just to see this thing that hovers so far off the ground that other tank heads can pass underneath it is like, I can't. This is a 10. Like this is like so on top of my shit in so many ways. And like, I totally get what you're saying about the visual fatigue. I was actually worried about that. I feel like normally that would hit me pretty hard, but I never got bored of looking at these. So it's just a pretty monumental accomplishment to me to put together, again, like basically a coffee table book that is this interesting. So, yeah.
Can't wait for the sequel, the Space Race Tank Heads.
I would fucking die.
Let us make a tank head thing. I want to use
Cold
this
War
world.
tank head.
I want Cold War and post-Never War tank heads. So I want civilian conversions and I want the weird fucked up we're heading into space stuff.
I want like run a game with tank heads or something. I don't know.
Oh, a Lancer game in the tank head verse though.
Yeah.
I don't
something like
have
that.
enough crunch in my body for that, but it is a beautiful thing.
I don't either, but I would play it. I don't know if I could run it.
You can come to our games and you can watch in the corner in a chair.
We're gonna take a break and then we're gonna come back and play a game.
We're gonna come back and we're gonna play Lancer with Tankhead, and
we're gonna play Lancer with Tankhead, and Nico's gonna die on air.
You look down at the time, and there's 3 hours remaining in the episode.
Hey guys, Alice here. Thanks for listening to On the Shoulders of Giants. We're really happy you're here, but if you know anybody who might be interested, we'd love if you share our work with them. If you are enjoying what we're doing, maybe send us a message, or what would really help us out is if you leave a review online. Really, a lot of the algorithms will push people down if they don't have reviews, so it really helps if you just go and write something on the internet. Heck, we might even read one on the podcast if it's really nice and makes our hearts go doki doki. So if you could do that, maybe do it, and thanks again for listening. Now, back to the show.
We're gonna play a game.
Welcome back.
Guys, would you believe that there wasn't really much fertile ground here to make a game out of?
From an art book?
Did you not just want to run a war game for us, or?
I got my BattleTech figures here.
But, ultimately, you could argue that this week's episode was really about history and about words on the page.
So true, bestie.
Are you making us write a paper?
No.
Oh, shit.
Our game is also on history and is also about words on a page. This game is called Newlyheads. We're playing the Newlyweds game.
Oh my god.
Fuck up. God damn it. Okay. Wait. Oh, okay, I do have my paper. I'm ready.
I've got my paper.
Playing the... Can I get a read on that game name again?
Newlyheads.
Thank you.
That's what I call it when... No, I'm kidding.
You're gonna have to remember things about each other and yourselves.
Fuck, I've never remembered a damn thing in my life.
Yeah, if neither of you, so the funny thing is some of these are tricky, and so we'll have to
what's
see
the Newlyweds game?
what happens. So the Newlyweds game is a game. I think the original version or like the on-air version is a little bit more than this. But what we're doing is I am going to ask one of you a question about the other one. You are both going to write the answer on your paper and then show it to me. And obviously the person who wrote it, who the question was about, is the right answer. And so they have to match.
Now, did Nico and I get married during this episode?
No, you got married on.
Wait, are we piloting a TANKHEAD together?
Yeah, I was about to say we're in a 2-person TANKHEAD. We're in like the U-boat one.
We're in the Yuri tandem. We're finally living my dream. Okay.
We're all three of us are married. That's the Iron Triangle.
Yeah.
We're in the tank sub together.
Who's pilot? Who's gunnery? Who's engineering? That's what I'm deciding the roles are. Alice is clearly the pilot. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I
so
must be engineering because I can't aim anything for shit. So.
All right, I'm gunnery.
You're the Russian girl that died, or she doesn't die in Pac Rim, does she? Where she like the one that drops down.
No,
and
she just drops into the crotch.
Yeah.
Can I sidebar with the audience real quick?
We can't stop you.
Hey, audience, when you're manning a tank, everybody knows the 3 important roles, which are driver, gunner, and engineer. Not commander, not loader, engineer. A role that every tank has. Anyway,
who else is gonna hop out of the tank when it gets shelled and hit it with a hammer until it fixes No, I got it wrong. Hit it with a wrench. I was trying to make a TF2 joke. Anyway.
I'm ready to pilot this TANKHEAD with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian, can you jump out and bang on it a little bit with a hammer?
Yeah, real quick. Just
Wait, which one are we piloting?
Oh my god, we've got to just start piloting. We'll find out later.
Okay.
We'll find out later. The question 1 is for Alice.
Please, I have to put in flooring.
Please, I have to feed my family. This one's for Alice. First question. What is Nico's favorite member of the Immortal 9 from Metallic Rouge?
Can I look up a list of them? Not that I don't fully remember it.
Can other people on the call also look up a list?
You can look up a list of them.
Hey, if you go to osgpod.com and look up that episode, they're all listed there, by the way.
Oh, that's smart. That's a life hack. Using our website is kind of a life hack if you think about it.
I know which one it is.
Yeah, I don't remember what any of these motherfuckers are called. My favorite one is the theme song.
All right. I have piloted myself to an answer.
I haven't. Hold on. I had to remember. I'm looking at all of them.
Take your time. Remember your feelings. Brad, I want you to also... Can we have you participate for a non-scoring person? Because I really want to... In this iron triangle that we have created, I need your input. You are my Lin Shimeng. Li
Shimeng.
You are my Li Shimeng.
All right, are we ready?
I'm ready.
Do you count us down? I don't know how this works.
I go first and then Nico reveals, right? If I remember the Newlyweds
I think
game?
that's how it goes, yeah.
Okay.
My answer is Flash Sylvia.
I wrote down double-headed arrows. I couldn't remember. I just looked at whichever one was cool.
Real heads remember the episode and which one you loved. Anyway, fuck.
Actually, Flash Sylvia was my favorite. I'm pretty sure Nico's was still Erkos in the episode.
Remember my own brain.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Okay, question 2, Nico.
Okay.
What was Alice's mech rating on Armor Astur?
Can't look this one up.
Fuck.
Yeah, this one is not look-upable.
Okay, I wrote it down.
Okay.
We ready?
Yep.
I wrote down 10.
I wrote down non-scoring. I don't think I gave it a score.
We did not score Armor Astur.
We scored it all as 10, which is why we decided it was non-scoring. Check the tape.
Check the tape. The tape being like probably a random Discord message or something.
Don't worry about it. We're learning. We're living and learning.
This marriage is not working.
I think we have to be in the U-boat one because we're not shooting well.
Okay, Alice.
I'm ready.
When Snake, Raiden, and the Mark III hopped into Metal Gear Rex, what did Nico say about her analytical philosophy?
I'm taking a shot in the dark on this one.
Okay.
All right, my answer was the boys are back.
Mine was Dudes Rock, but I think it's like the exact same spiritually.
I'm going to give that one to Alice.
Yeah.
Objectively, the correct sentence is I'm a robot fucker first and a woman second.
Oh, right.
but the answer essentially matched, so.
Yeah, Dudes Rock. The boys are back.
The boys are back.
I'm constantly applying that analytical lens to different media.
I know.
Jesus.
Oh.
Okay, Nico.
Yes.
Who is Alice's favorite Synduality Noir character? This one you can look up characters. Like, that would
Okay,
make
because
sense
I
to
was
me.
like,
I want to get her spelling right. I mean, their spelling right.
no, we knew it was a woman. That doesn't even narrow it.
Ew.
Oh, I can't believe you both said Dudes Rock. The boys are so back.
The boys are back.
Oh my god, if fandom.wiki would load at all.
Do my anime list.
Oh, smart.
It has a full character listing. I will admit, I think I know, but I'm going on my current feelings entirely, which I'm pretty sure matches what I said in the episode. Brian, who's your favorite?
My favorite Synduality Noir character?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Muzan. Isn't his name the Butler? It's the Butler.
Oh yeah.
Duh. Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. I hedged my bets as a bit, but I have my full answer in the bigger writing.
Okay.
I think it was Maria, the mechanic with all the maids, but
It was Maria.
Yeah! Okay, that's a legitimate victory.
The mechanic with the Yuri harem. Let's go. What was your other
I
one?
wrote or CL under it because you said this is based on my current feelings, and I'm like...
I wrote Seal, and then I scratched out because I was like, no. I know who my favorite was, and
I
still is.
nailed it. I got both.
Thank you. Thank you for understanding me.
I don't know anything about you except women.
That's it.
Legally,
Yeah.
you can own 5 of the same
Woman.
fuck, what do they call their robots?
Woman.
Magus.
Women. You can own 5 women.
You can own 5 women legally. That's how hard OSGs.
Magus. Fuck, I remembered the word. Okay.
I just said it.
I know you did.
All right.
All right, Alice. What Marxist phrase did you pluck from Nico's lexicon like some sort of harvest demon on air this summer?
Marxist phrase?
Yeah.
I don't think Alice remembers where it's from.
I don't think so either, and I think that's even funnier because the original conversation was also about how she didn't know what it was from.
Are you ready, Alice?
Oh, fuck.
I'm gonna put the Jeopardy music into this. Is that royalty free?
Don't worry about it. We don't make money off this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think I just straight up pull soundtrack clips? None of our shit is monetized on Google.
It could be one day. Well, no, I guess it can't. Not
No,
now.
it can't.
Guys, I'm not doing great.
I believe in you.
I can't even make a guess. I don't fucking know.
Do you want a hint?
Can I have a hint? What episode was it?
It's multiple episodes.
Mostly Metal Gear, I feel like.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out a hint that isn't just like a straight up giveaway. It's from the beginning of the Communist Manifesto, but you can't look up the Communist Manifesto because it would just give it away. It's Ghosts.
Fuck capitalism? I don't know. I pass. Ghosts. The ghost of capitalism? Something.
Yeah, you got there eventually. It's the specter of blank is haunting blank.
Oh! Yeah, I stole that from you. Yep.
Yeah, I stole it from the Communist Manifesto because it was the specter of communism is haunting Europe.
Oh my god, the Marxists are gonna fucking kill me.
You're gonna get fucking your
First the
ass beat
anarchists,
in the
now the
quote
Marxists. I'm fucked.
Alice is going through systematically pissing off each anti-communist philosopher there is.
Each communist.
Or, sorry,
Each
anti-capitalist.
Anti-capitalist.
The twist of this is I'm pro-capitalism or some shit, right?
We already know you like standing man emoji. All right, Brian, hit me.
Next one.
Which of the mobile suits playable in Gundam Evolution made Alice the angriest?
Can I look up the list of which ones were playable? Because I don't remember any of them except the Ashimar.
I tell you, you can go to the Jiva website, but it doesn't exist anymore.
It literally doesn't
Our
work.
website is the only remaining record. Touches ground on OSG website, Jivo episode. Something terrible happened here.
Something terrible happened here.
Oh, good. I found a tier list. This doesn't help me.
The one person keeping the tier list alive.
This question was originally going to be which one was Alice's favorite, but then we'd already done Alice's favorite Synduality character, and I was like, no, it's funnier because that game pissed her off so much to do it this way.
Okay, I found something actually useful. I'll be back.
This game
but
did piss me off.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, you're fine.
I know. I was like, she'll be back.
She
Yep.
gets up and leaves. Nico like, Ashimar? It's Ashimar. Ashimar? That's all you remember. Jivo bad. Jivo coins bad. Ashimar good.
Yeah. I think I have an answer. I'm going to real quick go through the rest of them. You would never hate the gun tank. It's our only beloved.
Who could hate the gun
Fucking,
tank?
you wouldn't pirate font. You would never hate the gun tank.
I think
Real.
I'm remembering the one that Brian hated the most, but, you know.
That's fine.
My answer is the GM Sniper 2 or the Mahiru? I couldn't remember. One of these two is behated. But I think the Mahiru is the one that...
Heavy Arms Custom from Endless Waltz.
Fuck!
They fucking did her so dirty.
Only
in that
one
game.
gun worked.
One
Yeah,
gun
that's
worked.
right! Only one gun worked! We don't know jack shit about each other.
Yeah, this marriage is falling apart.
Who gets Brian in the divorce?
He's outside the sub banging on it with a hammer. I don't know. I don't know if we want to talk
Underwater.
about this. Yeah.
Brian's just out there with a snorkel banging on the sub with a hammer. Trying to hold this marriage together.
I just have like a burlap sack of rivets. I'm just hammering into
Trying to get them in before they rust in real time.
Okay, Alice, this one should be easy.
Don't say that. Okay.
Which of the ship self-startup sequences did Nico most closely identify with in Heaven Will Be Mine?
Good cue, good cue.
Identified with is the verbiage.
It was about me. One thing we haven't touched on in your interview with AVB is that it's just about me.
Oh, this is hard because there's 3 answers, and I'm trying to remember which
Damn,
one
it's
dialed
not
in.
like they're really hard when there's 12 answers or 22 answers that I'm having to look up on a tier list.
I'm still gonna get it wrong. I'm ready.
Okay, reveal.
Thinking about Nico. Thinking about Nico's body. I'm gonna say the Mercrisium.
That is technically correct, because I wrote down Lunaterras.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that is correct. I was like, wait, hold on.
Let's go. Brian said
Thinking about
ship
my
selves.
body with my ever-bleeding wound and my community-designed aesthetics.
Exactly what I thought. I was like, yep, yeah.
When I think of Nico, I think of every weapon on Earth.
All right, Nico. Which part did Alice play in the dramatic reading of Mad Margarita's death in All You Need Is Kill?
I'm fairly certain Alice played the scenery on this one, so this is exciting.
It was the tree.
All right, my answer. Mad Margarita, the bitch herself.
I did Mad Margarita, the bitch herself.
Yes! Thank you for throwing me a low ball.
What was her name? What was her other name that was the head bitch?
The Full Metal Bitch.
The Full Metal Bitch. That's what it was.
Full
Okay.
Metal Bitch.
I was like,
The
she had a
sequel to
bitch
Full
name
Metal
too.
Alchemist.
The Full Metal Alchemist.
I was mad at myself because I was sitting there like, she has 9 names and I can only remember the worst one right now.
The worst? Mad Margarita?
Mad Margarita was the most topical because of all the time she spent in Florida.
Drinking margaritas.
Yeah.
As we all know.
Yeah. Alice is next. What specific empty beverage container did Nico have a questionable amount of on her desk in a cut part of a recent OSG episode?
Oh, this one's easiest answer ever. Tell me when you're ready, Nico, because I am.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to have the most
Concerning.
incomprehensible sticky notes on this desk.
So good.
I need you to know I made a pyramid of those later, and when my mom walked in, she just silently looked at it for like 3 seconds and then went to sit down. She didn't say anything about it. All right, I'm ready.
Arizona iced tea cans.
Raspberry Arizona tea.
Yeah.
All right, turn that camera.
I got rid of them. All I've got is my empty medication bottles and some water.
Camper check, is it still looking at you?
Water.
No, I
Or is he
packed
packed?
it.
That
I'm so sorry.
the gun's
Yeah.
not on you. That explains so much about the edits.
Wow! It's not that I'm buying a house, moving, putting in new floors.
It's like camphor isn't threatening you.
Camphor isn't threatening me.
And the Daisy Ogre.
Yeah, the Daisy Ogre threatening me with the mediocrity of sensuality. Hey, this is one for the fans. I know everyone was wondering, are we going to be covering the next network beta test for Sensuality Echoes of Ada? And I regret to say, no, we're doing something way more important. Brian decided to get married callously on the weekend that is happening. So we did decide to prioritize Brian doing a neural handshake with his fiance over that. So
True.
I'm sorry to all our fans who were waiting for our coverage.
They wanted it. we may still have a way to communicate about that. Well, who knows what that might be.
OSG, the only place for Sensuality Network test
Live
coverage.
updates.
But for real, because nobody's talking about sensuality. It's kind of embarrassing.
They
nobody.
need to talk about it. I need the John Gasmaker kit. You can stop talking about it after we get that kit.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more round.
Okay.
This round is extraneous in some way. Alice, would you describe to us what an extraneous round might be?
I think you would call this a round.
Yes.
I love the idea that a bonus is extraneous.
It is. We don't need this.
We don't need it.
Is that what that word means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a negative connotation. Alice, yes!
I'm learning.
Both of you will raise up your paper, and whoever has the right answer will get 2 points.
Is this about Brian?
Yes. Which of you laid the killing blow on my precious Metal Gear Ray in the final Metal Gear trivia game?
Okay, I think I know.
1 second. Okay, I'm ready.
Alrighty. 3, 2, 1.
Alice. GG, too easy, get fucked.
The great equalizer. You both get 2 points, which means this was not a bonus, really.
I remembered that Alice was the one who actually was doing warfare, and I kept trying to do bits.
And then you killed me at the end.
Yup, and then
I'm
I
not
did
mad
kill
about
you
it.
for your bits.
Thank you.
All right. Barely scraping by 1 point is Alice here.
Beautiful. Alice, you truly are the most wedded of us. Newly style.
I'm taking our subhead back to the surface, and we're all watching the sunset together.
That's
Aww.
beautiful. We're all watching the sunset over the ruins of the fantasy Lusitania.
Wait a minute. Do you see that? That's not a sunset. That's a blood moon behind the godhead. Oh, shit!
Wait, aren't we on the same side as the godhead? Well, it's still scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's spooky.
Spooky.
This pile of sticky notes is like fridge poetry. Anyway.
Post that unnoted to the socials. Just
That's actually kind of a good idea. In lieu of a correspondence or a flash transmission today, I have kept tightly under wraps the secret conversation that I, at the time of this recording, have not yet had with Tim, who wrote this book.
It's so secret, Brian hasn't even heard it.
And it's so secret, it's in the future. It's hidden. So I'll be inserting that into this timestamp. Yeah, it's cool that, I mean, I don't know. It's usually it's a good sign that something's consistently sold out. But I don't think I've seen it like actually not be sold out since it hit the market.
Yeah, there was a hiccup with distribution, which was annoying, but otherwise it's going very well.
But yeah, I mean, to just literally get right to business, why don't you tell me a little bit more about like how you came to be involved in this and like your background and your specialties and things like that?
Yeah, so to start with the elephant in the room, or the clog, I'm a Dutchman, so this will explain the accent.
Okay.
I grew up in the south of the Netherlands. So market garden was always like a background thing. During my first little stint at uni, actually, we used to cycle along the highway to hell. It's dotted with memorials to like the Highland Division and the Airborne Division. So it was always there in a way. Not really my specific interest. Well, I didn't finish uni. I went on to trade school as a goldsmith and turned that into making miniatures for board games and war games. And, well, I've made a lot of historical miniatures for that. And at that point, you need to really make sure it's accurate. So you dive into the operation manuals and stuff like that. So you really get a appreciation for details. People always say you need to make or use something before you can really appreciate all the aspects of it, and I really find that to be true with these things.
Totally.
And Emerson's designs really spoke to me. We really didn't have any contact at that point. I'm sure I commented on some social media stuff from him, but nothing specific. But I ended up making a fan model of one of his designs, the little egg whoppers. I think a lot of people like them. And he did it.
That was a huge hit for us.
Yeah, exactly. And he really liked him as well, but we didn't speak much after that either. And then similarly, he asked if I wanted to be involved in the book. So it literally sprung from an egg.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, it's interesting that you came to this from like a mechanical knowledge standpoint instead of like an actual like prose writing standpoint. I didn't even like anticipate that being what the timeline was.
Yeah, alongside the miniatures, and always like rule of writing and setting buildings. So it's been a part of my work as well, but never the main focus. But when I look at Emerson's work, there's a lot of stuff that speaks to me in a very specific mechanical way. Like, I know what this part does, or why this is here. It flows and it's logical, even if it's giant walking chicken.
Yeah, totally. Well, and like one of the things that we talked about during our recording for this was how iterative some of the processes, like you write about how like, oh, well, they made this incredibly bad like engineering choice, and so they had to compensate by doing this other thing, and that's how we get this final shape, which I think speaks to your background as someone who knows how these things work.
No, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely where we're aiming for. It's something I notice a lot in a lot of other media. To take a shot at a big name, like in Star Wars, most of the time you read about something, they'll always tell you, like, this was one of the best space fighters they ever made during this era.
Yeah.
They'll never tell you this thing was crap, but they made a lot of them, so it worked, or something like that. So that was, yeah.
Well, that's kind of a good segue into my next question here, which is just basically about how the art book reads, which is to say, like, the tone and cadence of the writing in there is very much like a confluence of like reading like a historical textbook, a mechanical glossary, and like a military encyclopedia. And so I was wondering like what the kind of process was for you in terms of balancing those tones, and if you had any like particular struggles or blockages when it came to kind of summarizing all of those things together.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. That was definitely the target we were aiming for, so I'm glad that landed.
Good. You did.
Let's see. I think we quite early on decided, well, we're going to have 100 vehicles, so we can't just make each one of them a very dry, pure rundown, because that will get boring quickly. So we'll introduce a bit of world building in there. I mean, you can't describe fictional vehicles without describing the world they live in some way. So we were borrowing from the concept of environmental storytelling in computer games. But at the same time, it's like a coffee table book. You're supposed to be able to pick it up and read one entry and understand it without needing the whole context. It might include things you don't know about yet. So you want to read more or maybe look at the timeline, but it should still be understandable. So that was a big balancing point in trying to make each entry interesting standalone, but also interesting when you read all of them.
Yeah, like we did notice like a couple of pages, you drop the word Godhead pretty early in there, and like you have no idea what that means until like the last quarter of entries, which I thought was interesting.
Oh yeah. I don't think we actually really gave much attention to like an arc for reading the entire book through in one sitting, because even just from posting some bits, nobody read it in order. So that wasn't something we really paid a lot of time planning the story arc from it.
That's interesting. One of the things that you'll hear us talking about in our recording is how we read the book as actually it kind of does have an arc. Specifically, the choice to put like the last, like the Kaiserians at the last part of the book kind of creates an arc because of the way that the I guess timeline of the war sort of centers around their developments and their technologies. So I think it's interesting. You may not have like anticipated making it a whole story arc, but you kind of did.
Yeah, I think we did consciously decide to put everything like first divided by vehicles, TANKHEADs, aircraft, and then in chronological order mainly. So you get that timeline in each section. And obviously the Godhead has to be the last entry. So that creates that arc by nature of those things.
Cool. So I guess we've kind of talked about this already, but like, how did you come to set this like backdrop? I mean, obviously this is a very close representation of our current world. But like, I guess it's kind of a frugal question, right? Like, what were the kind of thoughts that went into like, oh, who has TANKHEADs, who got to them first, and why? Were those any sort of like specific parallels to the way things went, with the Soviet Union and things like that?
Let's see. So we definitely just thought about it from the start, making sure we had a bit of a vector to work from. And also we really looked at what do we want to have in the final product, and working back from that, who needed to have what at what point for it to be logical to arrive at the end point. So kind of like ballistic tracing, but in narrative. And we also wanted to mirror the real world, but also make sure we diverged from it in a clear and recognizable way. So the Kaiserians, which are obviously the Germans, have the first deployed TANKHEADs and surprised everybody with it. That's the newspaper article section on that even in the book. I think that's very clearly mirroring the first deployment of real-world tanks. And we wanted to have that in there quite early as well, in timeline at least, like third section of the book, but show that, hey, this world, many of the same things happened, but always just a bit different.
Yeah. I remember you having seeing you have kind of a small Twitter interaction where someone had questioned sort of like some of the Kaiserian like symbolism and imagery being very close to some of the Nazi symbolism that we've seen historically, and how you like mentioned, we wanted somebody to be the very clear aggressor in this situation, and that is a very easy way to do that in a recognizable fashion.
Yeah, that definitely was a factor there as well. Though the Kaiserians politically are much more like the First World War Imperial Germans, but the imagery for them was already kind of established from Emerson's early work, which already existed before I joined the project. So there was, I had some stuff to bounce off from the start and see how we were going to work with that. But yeah.
Well, and also, if you're going to be the creative director at id, like that's just Doom and Wolfenstein, so that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. And Emerson, actually, he made promotion like twice working on this book. He was just senior concept artist when we started. So it was nice to see, like, I think he makes really good stuff, really, really good stuff. And then, well, apparently he boss thinks so as well.
Yeah, everyone agrees. And then kind of in a similar vein, like one of the things that struck me about the way the TANKHEADs come across on the page is like, the way they're like the different nations have their linguistic idiosyncrasies in the names of the TANKHEADs. Do you have any like insight into the naming process? Did you have any did you name any of these or?
I think a lot of them were from Emerson actually, because he's a lot snappier with names. I did play with a lot of the more Germanic sounding compound words. We've had Dutch stuff as well. So there's some fun to be had there. And we both really enjoy a good plan, so that helps. And from that, yeah, we both of us, but especially me, I think, have read and listened to a lot of stuff about tanks. Really start to develop a feeling for it doesn't have to be realistic, but it has to have a ring of verisimilitude. Like, it feels like it fits. Does it? Of course not. But at first glance, it feels like it fits. That's the important bit.
Yeah. Well, and like some of these have like cultural significance to them in a way that I think really speaks to that thought process. So yeah, one of the things that also struck me as we were kind of flipping through all the entries is how many, and we've kind of already talked about this as we talked about your background, but one of the things that struck me was a lot of the ways the material conditions that create like the impetus for making a lot of these tank heads. And I was kind of wondering what it looks like to come up with the relationship between the circumstance and the concept. Like, did you just get designs from Emerson and just sort of like go from there? Or did he say like, oh, I want to make this, so can you give me some iterative like processes that might come out with a final product?
Oh yeah, we a bit of both, but we really went back and forth with them. There were the initial designs, which he already had done, so we looked over them and said, okay, these are fixed, these are in the setting. And from there, I bombarded Emerson with tanks I thought would be interesting for in the setting all the time. And he'd pick one he thought would work, or go like, okay, this is interesting, but I'd like to do this with it. Would that make sense? And then I'd probably come up with a variant which actually existed or was proposed but never made. So we used that as like a cute reference for people who are really into their tanks.
I think that's how you know a kind of cooperative, like creative project is going well, is when both sides kind of get to generate something wholesale. You know what I mean? Like from their own thought processes.
Yeah, definitely. And Emerson sometimes would come up with something which inspires him and then have a sketch done in an hour or something. And it would be almost perfect or perfect to fit. And that would work.
Oh, wow.
That would, the sketch at least. But he worked fast at times. Or maybe it took longer, but like we were going to talk for a couple of hours. And then suddenly there would be a new design. And I'd maybe ask for a slight adjustment because something didn't fit for my feeling of the faction. But in general, yeah, that still built off stuff we had talked about before. So it was always back and forth leading up to them.
About how long did it take to get everything together?
Well, not counting the final editing and stuff like that, I think about 3 years.
Okay.
That's
pretty good.
Yeah. And we started not even really having a solid plan of how we'd publish it. We'd consider self-publishing originally, and then started looking into, okay, maybe we can have a publisher because running a Kickstarter and stuff like that is always an extra hurdle. But yeah, we mainly just worked on it most days of the week, just a couple of an hour or maybe half an hour most days, just talking about some detail and just kept going for a long time until we had a very solid foundation and core, and then decided, okay, how much do we still need from each faction to fill in the gaps, or do we think those gaps are part of the story? And then that's something to talk about as well. And how much more do we need? And rest of the target there. Let's work towards that. But that was quite late in the process, really.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you were originally thinking about self-publishing and didn't really have a plan for that. When did Udon like come into the picture? Because I feel like that's a huge get. They're like the art book people, the merchandise people sometimes.
Oh yeah, well that was definitely on Emerson's part. I wasn't really involved in much of that.
Okay.
We already were showing off like ideas about new designs and being clear that we were planning to do a book. And I'm sure somewhere through his connections that end is happening. Actually, I'm sure I know more details, but not from the top of my head. Oh yeah, I can imagine if they're looking at Emerson's work and his work on Dune, that's a logical fit for them.
That's something that kind of kept coming up, was like, oh, okay, we can completely see the line between this and like Wolfenstein, for example, especially with some of the Khazarian stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and like you say, it was a huge get for us, especially for me. It was a bit of a surprise, like, oh, we're going to be published. That would be nice, and it's going to be Udon. What do they make again? Oh, Street Fighter, Dark
like
Souls.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Now I make it sound like Emerson made all the decisions, but he always asks for feedback on this as well. It's his baby. I mean, his name is bigger on the cover, but he definitely gives me a say in each decision as well, more than he should. That sometimes I feel even.
That's kind of how we try to do it. Not that we're anywhere near this like level, but we do try to kind of give each other a lot of executive function. So I think that's a good sign. Do you guys like maintain? Are there any other projects like in the future for you guys together, or are you just kind of like friends now?
TANKHEAD isn't over. That's definitely part of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've got plenty of ideas left over to put in more books. So, and Emerson still wants to draw, so that's always nice. Well, we're shopping around for all sorts of secondary projects like board games, miniature games, computer games potentially, like stuff like that.
That's great. I will be definitely on the lookout for further projects on that front. Just kind of moving right along. I was wondering, so one of the things that we talked about was that the world kind of, there are characters in this in a way, like a couple of names only come up once, a couple come up a couple times. Like obviously I'm blanking on it now, but like the Khazarian priest who sort of, is the onus for a lot of the quote unquote plot that happens around the Godhead. And I was wondering if there were any like specific inspirations from actual individuals that went into any of these people that we kind of see showing up doing, some guy will do something cool in one of the descriptions every so often,
Well, there's a very obvious one there hidden in plain sight because the book is written in universe mainly. We wanted it to be read like it's a book from that world, not from our world describing theirs, which also allowed us to insert more gaps into the info because we assume that you know something about the world already because you're supposed to live in it, not look at it as a different world. And the main narrator of sorts, the writer of the book, I called him the TANKHEAD professor, the stuffy professor in my mind. And I definitely had a mental image of how he would sound and look like. But after a few years, I realized that he kind of had just morphed into David Fletcher from the Bovington Tank Museum, who used to do a lot of their YouTube videos. So he's kind of an inspiration for the main voice of the book. I'm sure
that is so interesting.
I'm sure the man self would write more interesting stuff than this because he's written very good books as well. But I just kind of latched onto him at some point.
Yeah, that is notable how there is a way in which a lot of the writing in this is like in its own diegesis. Like this is, like you said, like this is something that was written in, however many years after the war. Some guy went and compiled all this information. So that's interesting. Yeah, I love that actually. I think you kind of nailed it too. I'm not super familiar with that inspiration, but I do think based on your description, that is kind of the voice that goes in here. So praise for that.
Thank you very much. And beyond that one, a lot of the quotes and like characters which only appear as once are written by different people, mainly Emerson actually. I'd write something I'd want to be in the text, but it will always kind of sound like the main narrator because that's what I've been writing like for years at that point. And he'd often rephrase it in his own way, so it sounded like a different persona, which I think would really help diversify those quotes. And there are a few which I just also write myself and kept there, but I always try to have a very simple archetype in mind of character would say that, especially if there's one quote from that person, you can't be subtle about what they're about. It has to be either be very plain or a clear cliche of a character. So there's a couple in there which I definitely had like Baldric from Blackadder in mind.
Okay, yeah.
I think if you look at it with that mind, you can definitely tell from a few which ones I wrote in his voice.
Interesting. I need to take another look through anyway, but I'll be looking for that.
And then beyond that, there's a couple which are like shout outs to friends or friendly with the names either twisted a bit to hide it or very obvious if you happen to know them, or written in their style slightly. But
you got to do that. That's awesome. And speaking of character too, like I guess the big question I have about how the sort of narrative of the Neverwar unfolds in this book is, and I kind of have the answer to this already just based on how I know you and Emerson colluded on this, but was the kind of timeline for the war structured around the Godhead and like the discovery of the Tankheads and like how that kind of came together, or did you guys come up with that like later in the game to kind of tie the whole knot on everything?
Like I said, we definitely established some basic principles or framework at the beginning, so we tried to paint within those lines. And we went beyond it in most cases eventually, because we didn't want to have too much about the world or like a timeline in the book to make it too clear-cut. And then by the end of the book, we were like, okay, we need the timeline in this because nobody's going to understand it otherwise, if you want to understand all of it. But we very early on decided, like, okay, how are we going to end this? Because it was clear how the Second World War ended, though depends on where you live, what you consider to be the end of the war either. Well, which is very messy, and then you get like, okay, do we want atomic bombs in this setting? Do we want it to end with one nation blowing up civilian targets in another? Definitely not. We're clearly more pulp than that. We don't try to be too over the top most of the time. We've got a giant chickens and dragons and all that stuff. Let's be grounded with the story most of the time, but let's end on a climactic battle. We want to have a big final boss fight, and that needs to end the war in some way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I like almost want, and I'm glad to hear you say that that Tankhead isn't over, because like one of the questions that I had too as I came upon that whole situation at the end of the book there was that like if you had a chance, or if you do have a chance maybe later on to develop that into an actual like plot narrative, like what would be some of the things that you'd be excited to focus on?
There's definitely a lot of stories we still want to tell, but looking at that element, the final battle, I think for me, I'm a big fan of like a political drama, a period drama. So I think the Naziisms in Kizeria itself and in politics would be very interesting, because we have like these very obvious villains in Razavir originally, and then the twin Kaisers who are influenced by him greatly. They're very anime-style villains. That was also clearly our intent. Like we wanted them to be like the persons who you could see getting punched by Indiana Jones and not feel bad about it. So pulp villains. I think there's a lot of stuff that can happen there. You could have a very time-skipping story, like their childhood and then growing up, and then clearly they start to take over the politics despite they're like 14 or 12, and they take over a range and start to do very stupid things. But is it their fault, or is it because there's literally a whole system and religion putting everything on their shoulders and telling them that they're the best in the world and they should be putting everybody into war because it's good, actually? It's a very one-dimensional anti-war sentiment in a way, which was, again, intentional, because we didn't think we could tell a very deep and nuanced story if there's boar-shaped APC walking around and suddenly get attacked by robot crabs. And you could have stuff like Operation Valkyrie, the plot to assassinate Hitler is setting. I think that'd be very interesting. On the other side of the spectrum, we've got a Grandmaster Gamble to destroy the Godhead, which has 3 different forces going into the battle from very different directions and from 2 other nations, having like a combined ground force and air force, a naval landing party, and so much stuff happens there, and interesting plot lines, which we already kind of mentioned in the story, but not a lot. Like the battle through the Neolian Channel in the middle of Kizeria, and one of the biggest ships ever built gets lost there. But the aircraft carriers managed to launch their helicopters transporting TANKHEADs to the Godhead, so it works. And the Alliance bypassed the Triesburg gates to a new pass, which, yeah, sure, you can get through, but you won't have a logistical support network for going back at any point. There's a lot of small stories there, and you could switch back and forth between all 3 of the forces and their adventures and misadventures, and then arrive at the final battle of the Godhead, which should be epic, of course, because I think you already mentioned there's like at least one TANKHEAD manages to land on top of the Godhead and fight on and inside the machine itself.
Yeah, that stuff hits. Like, I totally agree with you on basically every count there. I would love a serialized kind of version of even just that series of events would I think really hit.
Yeah, that's you could do it like 5 minutes short, jumping back and forth. 10 of them would be able to cover it, but it could also be like a 3-season television series. It's,
completely. Yeah, I love that. I don't know if this is a little bit of a presumptive question, but I noticed in the credits there was a cultural consultant in Andy, and I was just kind of curious if there was any sort of highlights from the process of like kind of developing some of the culturally significant TANKHEADs with Andy between all three of you.
Well, definitely to give a bit of background there, I'm very confident in my history knowledge of Europe, at least, and for the Western world, because if I write something which accidentally mirrors some horrendous tragedy or war crime, I'll probably be able to discover it at least before we put it into the book, because I know what to look for. And when it comes to the other half of the planet, I'm much more uncertain about it. And we invented a lot of the design for Yamaichi from Volcroft, basically, because Japan specifically didn't have many tanks and no great tanks, depending on who you ask. I'm sure somebody will have opinions on that. But Emerson designed a lot of them from scratch, which is, and they were very cool. But writing the stories there, I didn't feel like I'd be confident in not writing something which accidentally sounds a lot like Event X or Y, which we really don't want to incorporate accidentally. So that was part of the beginning of that part of this process. And I knew Andy already on social media, and I knew he had the right mindset to understand where we're going for. If you follow him on any social media, you'll see just a font of ideas and storytelling and connections between things in different cultures all the time. And specifically, I don't think he inspired any TANKHEADs, but if you look at Akagawa City, you will think about Wind of Armor and the semi-ceramic pottery armor they produce from specific clay in that city. The whole thing is inspired by something he dug up, and I was like, okay, that's just going to be the section in this book, and that also helped me solidify. We're like, okay, so the Yamaichi have better armor than the rest, because that was one of those basic gamey elements. We decided, like, okay, they have the best armor, but that's not matching with any Asian nations at the time, really, because nobody needed tanks that much in the region. So, okay, well, how did they get there? I need to have a new reason that still feels logical. And then you get the very clear plates, the Yamaichi TANKHEADs, the little squares. So, okay, they're like applique armor, but that's a very modern invention, not Second World War at least, or not the first. So, okay, how do they make that? What is it? Very not metal. So, okay, it's a type of pottery which is special, and you can only get it from this region. And is that something super cool they've always done? No, they consider it like crap. It's unbreakable, but it's ugly. So you only use it if you're poor. You don't put it on the table in front of guests. It's like plastic pottery. You don't use the plastics for guests, right? To them, it's like that. And then they're sort of like, oh wait, this makes great armor for vehicles. It's not suited for humans, but if you can put it on a TANKHEAD, well, that was all based on his input. I think that really helped me pin down a lot of the ideas there, because without any basis in something real, well, because it's based on like red clay from specific ingredients in Asia. There's a couple of cities which have very specific clays they use, and he had a couple of very noticeable examples there in history. I thought, okay, like, this is something you can work with. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's Asia, they've got ceramics. Woohoo. That's, yeah, I think you can see what we were trying to avoid, and that's really helped.
Yeah, I think it pretty effectively threaded the needle on that one. So shout outs to Andy. That's Andy Chaisiri, if anybody's interested in finding him on social media. And then honestly, these last few questions are just kind of rapid fire, like little vapid nonsense questions that I tend to ask most people we talk to, which is to say, like, what is your favorite thing? Oh, what just happened? Sorry. Never mind. False alarm. Anyway, are there any neat world facts that didn't make it into the final product that you feel like sharing with us today?
There's a lot of what cut that I think that we didn't want to cut. We had a lot of control on that, which was very nice. There's a lot of stuff which did get cut because my initial text tended to be like 3 times the length of the final result, but all the interesting stuff is still in there. There's not a lot of things that I feel like, I wanted to get it in there.
Well, and as we established too, like there's more to come from this universe, so maybe it's best to sort of keep that in your pocket for now.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's stuff which I look at now, looking at the book, like, I wish I did more with that at the time, but I have opportunity to, hopefully. And also, like, if you look at the social media feeds for TANKHEAD, we post a lot of little factoids, and there's stuff in there which isn't in the book, I think, because it sprung it to mind.
Oh, okay. Do you run that account?
Yeah, together. We don't have anybody else involved. It's just me and Emerson. I tend to write the ideas, and then we try to cut it down because I can't write like a single tweet of intro to save my life. So it's
me neither. Well, I guess that brings me to my next thing, which is, what is your favorite TANKHEAD in this edition, at least?
Actually, I'll come back to the previous question. There was like one example, which I'm happy to share. Just like somebody asked me, like, how do TANKHEADs walk? Not purely mechanical. How do the pistons work? Because we can build walking robots in real life, but they don't work tremendously well. But how do TANKHEADs know where to step? And obviously that stuff has to be programmed some way. If you want to run, you can't make every movement for the feet with like the kind of levers that early tanks had. So how does that work? And after writing the book, I discovered some technology that's used in like early pinball machines to program their mechanical devices, which is, it's electronic, but it's not a chip of any kind. It's like a rotating motor which changes switches with set durations. I was like, oh yeah, you could have that for like step forward, run forward, different programs on big reels, moving the TANKHEAD and telling it what to do. That's one of the ideas. Okay, this is how some TANKHEADs at some point used to work, which isn't in the book, but is definitely locked in at the point.
That is so cool. Oh, I love to hear that. I mean, I really like pinball, so that was delightful for me. On to the next. What is your favorite TANKHEAD in this book? If you have one. You don't have to have one.
There was a very late addition to the book, actually, the little maps for the battles. We already actually said we didn't want to have any map, and then at some point, okay, we've mentioned too many places, we need a bit of a map, and then we have those we had most of the book locked in, and Emerson felt like he really wanted some battle maps to show in the book. He actually came up with a couple of examples, like, I want something like these maps, and I was like, that's cool, we've picked 3 very specific battles, and I can see the place I was born, the place I went to school, and my current residence in all 3 of these maps, because we're market garden maps, because that's definitely the biggest focus in Second World War study at this point. It seems it was. It felt very personal at that point, but I drew most of the basic designs for those maps, and Emerson made them look cool. It was like a last-minute edition, like, oh, I've kind of made some art for the book as well in the end. That was a very nice cherry on top for me.
That stuff I think really helped. One of the things that really hit on our recording with Alice, who is notably kind of an American military sim nerd, was the detail for like the sortie against the Libertarian coastal wall. That map was a huge hit for her. So just a shout out to that.
And then my absolute favorite thing in the book is the final text, like not the timeline and stuff like that. The epilogue is the word I'm looking for. Damn it!
Oh, with the image of Sputnik. Yeah.
Because we decided we wanted like the satellites there to imply like the future for the setting, and Emerson drew that basically standalone. I was writing the text, and I think the text is, well, if it's deep or not touching, that's up to people. I'm sure somebody else could have wrote something better, but it's definitely the best I could do at times. So I'm very happy with that. But Emerson came up with the art, and I was like, oh, that looks very cool. That's a good globe you've made. Wait, that's not Earth. So if you take the book and flip between the epilogue and the map in front, you'll start to recognize things. And from that point, I was distracted from the rest of the image. Like, wait, this is the planet, clearly recognizable. I can tell where things are on this map. And Emerson actually asked, like, wait, should I remove the globe there? And my map, only answer I could give was, don't you dare remove that part of the art. But that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I really liked it too. We talked about like the implication of like the different name on the satellite and everything. It's a very good ending to it.
Yeah, there's multiple hints and implications hidden in that one image.
Yeah. I love that. That's really good. Sorry. I keep flipping to the actual pages every time we mention something. I've got to stop doing that.
Oh, how works.
Stepping outside of the realm of Tankhead, like, I don't know if you're necessarily consider yourself a mecha enthusiast, but do you have a favorite mech just in media in general?
Ooh, outside of Tankheads, it's a very difficult question. I have a lot of favorites. I think Photons for me is the big core, though maybe not the Red Stroller, which is a bit overdone. Actually, I think I have a lot of love for the early work in Heavy Gear RPG and miniatures game, because they've taken that Photons concept and then really ran the military history process over it. So there's a lot of stuff there which I really like, with designs which don't take off and then get sold on the black market, and they're very common and reliable in the Badlands, and that really speaks to me. I think that shows in TANKHEAD as well, that mentality.
I think I agree, and I think that this is a sign that we need to start paying attention to Votoms on our podcast, because I think you're the third person we've interviewed that has mentioned Votoms as like a favorite. So that's a good sign. I'm gonna actually write that down really quick. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to like plug or talk about, or like, do you have any imminent projects you really want to get out there?
Well, for me personally, not really. I've always got little things going, but it's always uncertain when it launches or is done.
Sure.
But it's
that's fine.
Yeah, actually, I should mention, we're very open to questions about TANKHEAD, like the lore and stuff like that, on any of the socials, or like Goodreads, or whatever you can find us. I'm always happy to chat TANKHEAD, and if people ask questions about stuff I haven't thought about, that's great. So. People sometimes, I think our presentation has been good enough that we kind of feel inapproachable to some people, maybe. I mean, I felt that way about Emerson originally as well. So by all means, contact us and ask, or contact me. Emerson might be busy. He has a big job. I'm freelance, that helps.
So yeah, definitely let them know. I know just based on being on Twitter a lot that the TANKHEAD Twitter is very active. So yeah, definitely hit them up with questions there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Tim. This was awesome. I think we had a really good discussion, and it's going to slot into a lot of the things that we talked about on the actual recording for the pod very well. So I'm excited to get that published.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, I have been listening to you guys before, even while working on TANKHEAD. So it's very nice to to get my own work in there, but I'm surreal still.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so yeah, we'll just skip straight to the end. Do you guys have any parting thoughts on this?
I love art books. I think we need more very cool books.
Agreed.
What was everybody's favorite? I don't think we did that. I really wanted to know what your guys' favorite from this was.
I liked Kabuto Mushi. I liked the Beetle.
Godhead, for sure.
Nice. That's it. I love art.
Wait, what was your favorite?
Good.
You just like art?
The
Nobunaga.
The Nobunaga.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Fucking cool as shit. Reminds me of Commander Far Cry from the Tau Empire.
I mean, as does it all of us. We all thought about that.
Who amongst us doesn't think of whatever Alice just said? And that is this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants, where we discuss TANKHEAD. Thank you for listening. Pilots, remember you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can catch up with us on social media. Links are in the description for updates and more. Make sure to check back in 2 weeks when we will be discussing Godzilla against Mechagodzilla.
Dun dun dun.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.